And we're here again for another Patreon episode. We're getting into the home stretch. There's only a couple episodes left. So yeah, this one is on Rambo Last Blood. We recorded this, I want to say, in February of 2020. This is right before the world shut down in 2020 from COVID. Yeah, this was probably one of the most painful movies we ever had to sit through on Film Rescue. This was pretty rough. God, man. I don't know what the thought process was behind this, because the fourth Rambo film, while it's not a great movie, it's a good, solid ending. We even addressed that in the episode. It's a solid ending. This just completely derails the whole thing. This movie is ugly, it's boring, it's incredibly racist, it's offensive, it's xenophobic. This is one of the most despicable films I think we ever covered on all of Film Rescue. This was really rough. The pitch was great, though. Pitch was great, and the episode, the original cut that was just on the standard Simplecast was only like 2 hours or so. This is about 2 hours 35. We just kind of chatted. It was a lot of fun. We were just kind of hanging around, just chatting. You know, it's one of the longer episodes of Film Rescue. Not the longest, but one of the longest. We were just kind of hanging around, shooting the shit. It was a great time. We had a lot of fun. Had a lot of laughs on this one. I would occasionally go back and re-listen to this one every now and again, because it's like, hey, I just want to sit back and relax. It's always a fun one to listen to, because the pitch was great. Tearing apart the movie was a lot of fun. There was no drinking on this one, because we were just like, we were so angry. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it drunk. We were like, our anger was so focused that we just couldn't resist doing that one sober. The movie was awful. Even though it's only 78 minutes, it feels like it's 3 goddamn days long. It's, as far as a trilogy for Rambo goes, just watch the first one, the second one, the fourth one, and skip 3 and 5. That's it. You don't need to watch 3 or 5. Both of those were covered on Film Rescue, and, you know, there's a reason you don't have to watch those. Here it is. This is probably one of my favorite episodes of Film Rescue. This is the Patreon cut of the Film Rescue for Rambo Last Blood. Enjoy.
So I guess we're in the episode now? Because I think we started, then we did a sound check, and then we just kind of segued back in.
So the question is, do I leave the sound check in and count that as the beginning? No, that's fine. I'm fine
Patreon!
I'm fine with that. Hey, we're talking about a Rambo movie.
Again.
Brandon has a theme. If it's not video games, it's Rambo.
I don't know why either. Like, I always had, like, a passing following with these movies. Like,
You're a Stallone fan. You like Stallone movies?
Not always. It's not like I'm going to watch all of his stuff. Like, I feel like...
I don't think anybody needs to rewatch Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
I don't think he wants to either. Like, he will acknowledge his bad comedies. He'll talk about... He actually said that if he had a lot of fun on a shoot, he knows the movie's not going to be good.
Yeah.
He said that about Rhinestone and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Like, he enjoyed working... Rocky V, like, I don't know how much
he
he
was
actually
on autopilot for that
He was
movie.
definitely on autopilot for Rocky V, but I actually did say that Rambo Last Blood is the Rocky V of the Rambo series, but I would much rather watch Rocky V again than ever watch this again.
Oh, sure.
Rocky V has a little more heart to it.
It has a lot more.
And no racism.
No. But yeah, the thing about Rocky V is that Stallone admitted later on that he was like riding very high on his ego at that point. Even then, like obviously Rambo 3 was a bit of a dent. He's like, oh, I'll just go back to Rocky. It'll be fine. Then he made it, and then it just... That was the alleged last chapter, and then we got 3 more movies. We got Rocky Balboa and the 2 Creed films, which thankfully all 3 of them were far superior to Rocky V. I don't see that happening with this franchise. This is done.
This franchise kind of ran its course with the fourth film, which is not a great movie, but it's got enjoyable elements to it.
Yeah,
it's a good final chapter.
Yeah.
I mean, a working title was Last Blood. Like, they actually were planning on that with that film, and it would have been perfect. I've actually said at this point...
It went through, like 5 title changes.
At least.
It was Last Blood, then it was John Rambo.
Which it was still called in international territories. If you watch the extended cut,
Yeah.
it's even the American extended cut, it's called John Rambo.
Right.
Yeah. But he got paranoid. If it wouldn't be the last one, everyone would go, oh, he's doing like Rocky Balboa, so it's going to be the last Rambo.
Yeah.
Which... Rocky Balboa is technically the last of the mainline Rocky films, but it's not the last film to feature Rocky, so that's a little shaky there. But yeah, if you watch the international cut, or the extended cut, I should say, or even its theatrical cut internationally, it was called John Rambo. So he was planning for that. And, of course, when that infamous sizzle reel came out in 2007 that leaked, and everyone was like, oh, my God, there's so much gore, it was called John Rambo there as well. So they were prepping for that. And the funny thing is, the whole thing in regards to the gore, with the fourth one, he said he knew that they were going to have a low budget. He wasn't sure like what would pull people in. He's like, you know what? We're just going to have to ramp the shock value for this one because, the Rambo films 2 and 3 especially were, violent, but not like insanely violent.
Sure.
But he knew that they would have to like do something to get people's attention. Obviously, it worked to an extent because I remember when that trailer leaked, like summer, early fall 2007, everyone like lost their shit. Like the internet,
the image
lost
of
their mind.
of the two guys in the truck getting blasted by the mounted gun.
Yeah, well, it's funny
Jesus
because
God.
they had to do a quick reshoot of the dude who gets his head cut off because the angle that they used for the sizzle reel looked like he punched his head off. And because that's what everyone says, like, did he punch his head off? Like, you hear a swipe sound.
Yeah.
But that angle and the lighting just made it look like he punched his head off. So they did a redo where
what was
you
the
clearly
time
see
difference between 3 and Rambo? Or
20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah.
that would be a worthwhile deep dive as to how violence changed in cinema between 3 and 4 and why it looked like that.
The 3 still kind of had elements of like dumb 80s action movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like Commando. It's basically Commando in Afghanistan.
Right.
Pretty much,
But then you look at like the fourth film, and it's much more graphic. I think it's the post Saving Private Ryan era where like violence is realistic. It's not fun anymore. It's isn't it post 9/11 as
definitely.
well? So it's like you
definitely.
have that, and it's worth noting the political aspects of Rambo 4, like the war that was happening in Myanmar, Burma. It is over now.
Yeah.
And how did it stop? Peaceful protest.
Right.
So the entire movie is fundamentally pointless.
I mean, it was going on for like 60 years when they made the movie, so I don't think they expected that.
Well, it's a very right-wing philosophy of you can kill your way to victory if you just kill all the people on the opposite side. And sure, that's fine for an action movie, but if you really try to put that in a realistic context, it does have the sort of white savior mentality to it, which is a horrible cliche and is profoundly racist. If you really think about it.
Especially in another country.
Especially it's not even his country. It's like you're in another person's country and you're saying like, oh, you know how to solve the problem. Just kill everyone.
Well, in Rambo's case, he didn't even want to get involved. He's just like,
he didn't want to get
involved. He was pulled into it, so it's not even like he wanted to do that.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
5 is much more of a white savior film than 4. 4 is just like, if I have to.
5 is straight up white savior.
The real white saviors in the 4th one were the missionaries. Let's be honest.
They annoyed me a lot.
But then it also has the moment when the missionary who doesn't want to kill anybody smashes a guy's head in with a rock. It's like the pacifist becomes an activist. But why does he become an activist? He literally just bludgeons a guy to death with a rock.
Yeah.
Character development.
Character arc, quote unquote.
But even the music takes a dive at that point where it's like, yeah, this is what he had to do, and he doesn't look too happy about it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those like. I feel like with the 4th one, you can interpret it different ways. 5, no.
Yeah.
5 is very in your face. I mean, the sad thing is they try to have the character Carmen in the 5th one. It's like, oh, but she's a good character, but she's just kept in exposition.
Yeah.
Right.
And is barely a blip.
Barely.
That was the journalist.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought she was going to have more to do in this movie.
Yeah.
This film feels like it's missing significant chunks.
Yeah.
Sure. This is clearly a film that was edited down because they said the movie is too boring. Let's just get to the good stuff.
Right.
And it's weird. And like I've talked about in our chat how for some inexplicable reason they cut out like 10 minutes when it got its American release.
Yeah, they cut the opening.
Yeah.
The movie just starts.
Yeah, exactly. Like the opening actually showed Rambo trying to save people, even if it meant him dying. Like I think he was just ready to die, but if it meant that he could save people, cool. And he could only save like one person. So he beats himself up, goes into the tunnels, and just buries himself for a bit, and then we're supposed to go to him on the ranch. So it's like, okay, a little more development there. It's like, what is he doing since he came back from Burma or Thailand? Then there you go. But and I mean, I've only seen like snippets on YouTube, and I've like seen the moviecensorship.com article like showing the screen caps, comparing the two cuts. And yeah, I mean, some of it seemed like it was kind of insignificant. Probably would have been in the deleted scene section. I do think they should have kept the opening. I do think even like one of the most random cuts, like the final like pullback shot at the very end, was actually shortened.
Yeah.
I was like, why would you do that? Like, let it breathe.
90 minutes.
Let Brian Tyler's crescendo breathe because they're just using Battle Adagio from Part 4.
Composer of Bubba Hotep.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Brian Tyler is a fine composer.
Yeah.
He's really good.
He's done a lot of
like
work.
his stuff.
The only the only egregious credit I have for him so far, I still have no idea why they even did this at the time, was having him temporarily replace Alan Silvestri in the Avengers. Because Silvestri did one Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
But Ultron, Brian Tyler.
There may have been like schedule conflicts or something.
I guess.
That.
So it's
I know Silvestri's theme is still in there, but
yeah,
it's
one of those like
it's
based
one of
on
those.
things by.
It's one of those Giacchino did Rogue One, imitating John Williams.
Right.
And it's like
situations.
even here, like when Brian Tyler first did the fourth Rambo composition, it said based on themes by Jerry Goldsmith because he
Right.
did the initial trilogy, but unfortunately he passed
Is
away.
he the J.J. Abrams of composing? Is he just like able to like do this director for us, do this composer for us?
Kind of. But with Ultron, it was like I know one term that some critics like to use for film composing. Even if it's not bad, they'll just call it wallpaper.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
musical wallpaper. And I feel like that's kind of what it was there. But with the two Rambo films he's worked on, I feel like his scores tend to be one of the better aspects of the films. Like,
Yeah,
I love what he did in the fourth film. Like, there's a bunch of cues from that one. I love Battle Adagio. That's one of my favorite film pieces just in general. Just this rising crescendo. And it's funny because I noticed that there are a lot of cues that were recycled from the fourth Rambo in this one.
Yeah.
Even though he actually did a lot of new ones, I don't think fully made it into the film. Like, if you look at this track from this film, Last Blood, he did a track called Sunset, which essentially was sort of a redo of Battle Adagio with, a different opening. The body's about the same, but the ending's a little truncated. So it's sort of like half and half. The film doesn't really use it. It just uses the original version of Battle Adagio. I was like, I love it, but he did a half new version and you use none of it. Okay, fine. But yeah, I did like the music as well, and I do like his work. I think he's done like all but one or two of the Fast and Furious films as well.
Yeah.
He's done all the Expendables films as well.
Those things.
Yeah.
We're not fixing those.
I remember liking
The
the
third
first
one, get rid of the new people and make it rated R. There you go.
Right.
And have
There-
a fight between Stallone and Mel Gibson that's not 1 minute long.
And there's
shaky cam.
there's your quick fix for Expendables 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Although now we're getting Expendables go to hell. The comic.
The comic is
where,
hilarious.
where Barney Ross is punching Hitler on the cover. Like,
Uh,
I know there's no chance in hell that would ever be a movie, but I kind of want to see the comic at least,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity.
You say that. You say
You
no
know,
chance in
they're
hell.
doing-
no pun
they're
intended.
they're doing the all-female version.
Oh.
They've been talking about that for a while.
Yeah, it's like
the
it's
Expendables.
like Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano and like Zoe Bell. They're all gonna get together to do one of those.
I mean, the thing with Ronda Rousey is she had all the credibility when she was still in UFC, but then after
After she left,
yeah,
now it's like, what does she do now?
right.
WWE.
What was
And voices Sonya
Yeah,
in
I
Mortal
was
Kombat
about to
11
say, what's she, Sonya?
Yeah,
for reasons. Although I think what's her name? The one from Dexter, something Carpenter, Jessica Carpenter,
Charisma, not
Charisma Carpenter.
that's
Although she was in the first two Expendables.
That's true. Why is she not in the third one?
I don't know. I guess they broke up. They just never mentioned
Oh, whatever. It's not like they can't afford her.
it. Yeah,
Right.
that's fair. But no, the one from Dexter, Carpenter, she actually is doing Sonya's voice for the animated film,
Right.
Scorpion's Revenge. So it's kind of ironic. I had to throw Mortal Kombat in there somewhere.
I mean,
but
you
speaking
gotta-
of Mortal Kombat, how about the gore in the Rambo movies? So on that note, with the fourth one, he did say that he managed to scathe by an NC-17 on that one because they were like getting ready to hit the fucking NC-17 button.
Oh, yeah.
Push the Whopper button. But he swooped in saying, remember, this is war violence. How many war films have we had with about the same level of violence that have been rated R? And they're like, all right, you're right.
Yeah.
But then you have this one.
Yeah.
You have Last Blood.
This is like, it's
It's not
It's-
war
it's-
violence.
it's not
like
even,
in
like-
the streets violence, which I think is
it's
worse.
worse. I even said
And
when
it
I was watching,
still got an
this-
R.
When I was watching this, I was like, okay, this like violence in films can be entertaining. Like,
Yes.
I've said this before. Like, like Tarantino says
Kill
it all
Bill.
the time.
Yeah.
Like, violence is the most entertaining thing to watch, but only when it's in a particular context.
Right.
Like when it's meant to be like fun and action packed. Like
Yeah.
it's oriented for the sake of the scene. But when you're just like mutilating and torturing people, and it feels like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Right.
This isn't
I've
fun.
never seen, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
This isn't fun anymore. It's just gross. It's just, I mean, even I have a high tolerance for violence.
I mean, we heard your Punisher pitch.
But even I was watching this and I was like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
This is just not even fun. And he's doing this to people that are just
it's
like
grimy.
And it's like he's doing it to people like. Obviously, this film has a very, very racist slant to it.
Oh, sure.
It's like it's not even subtle about it. It is obvious. Like Rambo is good. Uber white nationalist American Vietnam veteran, make America great again.
They just
Rambo.
dropped off over the years that he's like half Native American.
Yeah.
Like that was the last mention in, like, I think the second film, and like when they show the graves of his parents, they're like, oh wait, his mother was German. We forgot. Helga, that's a German name. We'll go with that. It's like Jesus okay.
Christ. Yeah, but then he's just murdering like anybody that's Mexican, and like there's no positive representations of Mexico in this film.
Right.
It is just Mexico is filled with it's the Donald Trump thing. They're all rapists and murderers.
Right.
This is literally. Everyone in Mexico is a rapist and murderer. Like
it's the Bad Hombre movie.
You never see any positive representation of Mexico in this film. Like the entire town they go into in this film is just like a slum. It's just slums everywhere.
Right. They're they make them out to either be gangsters or helpless damsels in distress or just,
or rapists and murderers.
Yeah.
It's like
the
there's
redeeming values of the girl is that she's half white. That's what saves her.
Yeah.
Is she half white?
I think that was.
I think.
I don't know. I just know that the actress is Chilean because I was
Right.
trying to do research for my new.
So it's not even
pitch.
accurate in that respect either.
I mean, they filmed in Spain, so there
It's
you
like
go.
it's like
I mean,
it's like
so
casting
did spaghetti westerns. Whenever they need in Mexico, they just went to Spain.
it's like casting Omar Sharif to play Che Guevara. It's like completely wrong. He's an Egyptian actor. Don't
Right.
do that.
And the violence, I think. So the scene in particular that we're talking about
The collarbone
is
scene.
the collarbone scene.
Because that's the first
Jesus
big one.
Christ.
Okay, I'm very sensitive to violence, and
It was the pop that did it, wasn't it? When it went through the skin.
Actually, it was the skin lifting away from the bone when his thumb went in there.
Okay.
That was a little much for me.
Yeah. What's ironic is that it's usually those moments that would trigger NC-17.
Right.
Like, you can show someone, like, literally exploding, but because it's so over the top, you would get an R.
Exactly.
But those smaller moments, smaller in quotes, they actually have said that it's more the psychological aspect that can push it from R to NC-17. This is why back in 93, when Hard Target was getting its rating, it got multiple NC-17s, and one of the scenes it kept going back to was when a character was getting his earlobe slowly cut off, and you just see the blood dripping. It's not like a quick snip. And in the theatrical cut, you hear it off screen, and then you see like the aftermath of the blood on the shirt.
So it's like Reservoir Dogs. It's
Right.
off screen, but then
but
then
it's-
Oh
in the
man,
actual-
you do get one shot of that ear though.
True. But yeah, if you watch the NC-17 cut of Hard Target, you do see like the long, slow movement of the blood running down the shirt, the earlobe slowly like clipping off. You hear like the last snap. Yeah, that would have given an NC-17. And I'm watching the scene thinking to myself, this is the exact same thing.
Right.
Yet somehow it's skating by with an R at this point.
Right.
So it's really bizarre.
Is it possible that the reason for that is because the movie is only like 78 minutes long, and because the runtime is so short, they were able to get away with more because it's not as much.
There are so many variables.
I mean,
and
I don't know how
bureaucracies
I don't know
with-
how the MPA really judges their films.
Neither do they.
But
yeah,
then-
no.
I've
It
seen that
comes down to a lot of sway. Like
yeah.
Why do you think Spielberg got away with the shit that he got away with in the mid '80s before everyone
Right.
freaked
Oh,
the
yeah.
fuck out? It's like we need either give him an R or do something else. Make a PG-13. Okay, cool. And then everyone calmed down. Because you had him directing Temple of Doom,
and then
ripping out a heart,
Gremlins
and-
that came out at the same time.
which he produced along with Poltergeist.
Yeah.
So anything that had his name, people were like, "Wait a minute."
People,
Go back further to Jaws. You have someone just getting chomped down.
Poltergeist would be rated R today.
Yeah,
It
the
would be
face
R
melting
rated
scene.
because the face melting alone gives you an R rating.
I
Because
feel
it's
like their
mutilation.
loophole is that it was like
It's a dream.
like dream or hallucination.
Which doesn't really make sense. Like
No.
it's like a ghost that's haunting the house. Why is his face melting? It's just
Yeah.
it's an effect that they had. Somebody had a
Yeah.
cool idea.
Now I'm just thinking about that Family Guy moment where Peter's face is melting. He turns into Hank Hill. Propane.
So the going back to the collarbone scene, There's one thing you could do to make that worthwhile to me, and that's have Rambo throw up right after. Like, make him empathetic to what he just did.
Like, he probably hadn't done anything like that since Burma.
Right.
Like, I wondered about that.
Yeah.
Especially when they all gang up on him. It's like, why didn't he put up more of a fight? Oh, he probably actually hasn't done much since then.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
If you're going to say this guy is some way changed away from the way he was, actually show that.
Right. Yeah.
Rather than just being like, oh, no, he's always been a violent psychopath.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember what movie it is, but there's one where a character who is a violent person gets blood on their face, and after the violence is ended, is freaking out trying to get other people's blood off of their face. And
Kingsman.
it's like, there you go. There you go.
Samuel L.
Kingsman, when
Jackson.
Sam Jackson sees the blood and he vomits.
Right.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff makes...
Blood makes me uncomfortable.
I forgot he talks like Mike Tyson throughout that whole movie.
Yeah.
What an in-joke. He serves McDonald's.
So does Donald Trump.
Well,
Make America great again.
life imitating art.
Ugh. I'm hating it.
Yeah, just anything to make it empathetic. Guns Akimbo. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So into
I'm the only one here who's not seen it.
It's really fun. it's the third Crank movie we're never going to get.
Right.
It's basically just third Crank. What's the gimmick this time? He has guns bolted to his hands. That's the gimmick. Don't
Then
whatever you-
Statham
whatever
sitting
you
somewhere,
do-
or the Neville Dean Taylor team are like, shit.
he's trying to take a piss in the morning. He's like, whatever you do, just don't shoot your dick off.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
He's trying to take a piss and he's trying to get his pants down. And he's like, just don't shoot your dick off.
Yeah.
Does he actually say that?
Oh, yes. That
And
is
you
the
actually,
line.
for like what, 20 frames, you see Daniel Radcliffe with full frontal nudity.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the
I'm
dude
pretty sure
did
it
it
was
on
fake.
I'm pretty sure it was fake.
He's
but
done it
it's-
on Broadway anyway, so
Oh
who
yeah,
gives a
it's-
shit?
it's a good point, yeah.
But yeah, that movie did such a good job of, like, he's not a violent person, and by the end he has to be to fix this.
Yeah.
But he's not enjoying it, and he's breaking down anytime things get too violent around him. And
I saw,
love that.
I saw multiple reviews of Guns Akimbo that they said this film fetishizes violence, and I'm like, okay, what's the problem? That's the point of the movie. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be over the top because that's the context of the film.
Right.
But with something like this film, Last Blood, this fetishizes violence, and it's overt about it, and it knows it, but it's doing it because fuck Mexico.
Right.
Or Spain as Mexico,
Or
apparently.
Spain's-
And Bulgaria as Arizona.
And this is the actual ranch they go to does not look anything like the ranch from the previous film.
Right.
Yeah.
It looks nothing like it. The mountains are not in the same spot. It looks like a standard, ranch in like New Mexico, but it's meant to be Arizona
Via Bulgaria.
via
I'm just
Bulgaria.
gonna keep
It's like,
saying that. Thank you, Millennium
they
Films, for
couldn't-
setting
I
every
guess-
movie you've shot in Bulgaria.
I guess they couldn't get the
Hellboy!
location. They couldn't get the same location again, I guess, or something like
Right.
that.
Yes.
But it's just like Rambo.
if you
like
just ended with the fourth movie, we
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
have
like
this
it's
problem.
the soldier comes home. End of the story. Like
Right.
some stories just have
seeing
an ending.
That ending, oh god damn it! The ending of the fourth one was just so perfect. I remember sitting
Yeah, he
in the
just
theater
walks
seeing
away.
that.
And
Like
if
he
you-
looks over his shoulder and just sees, metaphorically, his past.
Yeah.
It's finally behind him. He even has like a very faint like smile on his face, like I can breathe now. As he
Right.
walks down the road, it's like yes, this was perfect. I remember getting chills that final like crane shot as you hear the crescendo of the instrumental version of "It's a Long Road" playing. It's
Yeah.
like this is perfect. No, let's do a fifth one.
Yeah. And now they're doing a sixth one because this movie apparently made a fuck ton of money. I wonder why.
And on
Because
that
apparently
note,
half the South is racist.
on that note, I still wonder if with the ending when he goes to the rocking chair,
Yeah.
if they threw in the voiceover
Oh,
as like, oh no, he's still alive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's totally because it seems like they wanted him to die because
Yeah.
like the wounds he suffers, like no normal person can survive.
Oh,
that.
the movie wants him to die.
I wanted him to die. I was like, I'm just done with this. But it's like the movie itself, you can clearly see that they were gonna end it here,
Right.
Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, what if it makes money?" Well, then
Quick, get a shot of him on a
get
horse.
a shot of him on a horse.
Going towards the mountains. It's like
that-
some people are like, that's just a metaphor. He's dead, and that's him going into the afterlife.
That
Oh.
is such bullshit.
The film's not that smart.
Yeah.
No.
And now they're saying he's going to go off and like defend an Indian reservation or something like that. That's the sixth movie that they plan for. Just read.
doubt it.
Just read Jason Aaron's comic book Scalped if you want to see that. Okay.
Just give us a prequel instead. See him in Vietnam.
they
when
were
he was first
talking
there.
about doing a TV show.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like a prequel TV show.
No, it was going to be about his son. That was going to be like solving problems in a town or something like that. It was kind of like imagine First Blood, but it's John Rambo's son, his long lost son, and it's like he's solving problems, and they couldn't wrap a story around it because they're just like, well, how does he just randomly have a son now? So they just didn't know what to do with this, so they just abandoned it. I think they did film it, but I don't know.
He had
what
an
the pilot
illegitimate child in Vietnam.
Yeah, illegitimate child in Vietnam. It's like
that was a big thing too. Like I forgot what they
sure.
called that, where there were like a lot of like half American children in Vietnam
because it just people just they just got tired of like waiting to go home.
Yeah. And there was a deleted scene in the original First Blood where Rambo actually was with, I believe, a Vietnamese prostitute. So I'm just saying.
Canonize the deleted scene.
I mean, they half did that with the alternate ending.
Right.
Where, Troutman shoots him, where they use that as part of like the nightmare scene in the fourth film.
That's right, yeah.
So,
I forgot about
it's
that.
like a split second, but you do see like the boom. I was like, oh, hey, there was the alternate
Which
ending.
is more
First Blood.
which is the only really totally accurate thing to the book.
Yeah, because
Right.
It's the only thing that's accurate to the book. I mean,
Act 1 is pretty similar until the end of it.
Yeah.
When he starts killing cops.
That book, he kills so many people.
Yep.
Yeah.
My God. In the movie, he just destroys property. He doesn't kill anybody. He hurts people, but he doesn't kill
Like
anyone.
he indirectly
Kills
causes Galt's death.
Causes the guy in the
which,
chopper to
which
die.
plays a big part in my rewrite.
Right.
Yeah.
A big part.
Right.
So is your pitch going to be a continuation of that, or is it going to be just its own thing based upon this film?
So it's
Is it like my BVS where it's a sequel to my Man of Steel pitch, or is it going to be more?
You said page 5 rewrite.
because like watching it, I actually started doing the rewrite before I even saw the film. Like I read the outline, I seen the trailers, so I was like, all right, well, I'm barely going to use any of this.
Right.
And ironically, some of the things I started writing at the beginning were lining up with a couple of scenes early on.
Yeah.
With the relationship between Rambo and Gabrielle. It's like, okay, I'm getting some similarities.
Right.
Although she's a smidge older, she's already in college. She's having tuition issues, so she's thinking about joining the army. And Rambo's like,
I know how that turns out.
yeah, it's like, I know times are different, but however, things kind of go askew due to other issues, but we'll get into that later on.
So I have two, I guess we didn't even do the positives.
No, aside from the music.
There's like, besides the music, like what else is there to talk about? Like visually, it's kind of ugly. The editing is kind of sloppy and boring.
Yeah.
The end battle.
The
Let's talk about the tunnel sequence. Let's talk about the tunnels.
Yeah.
The labyrinth.
Okay.
Like, first off, he dug all that himself. One guy.
How long's it
That
been
man
since
has a
Burma?
lot of
11 years.
That man has a lot of free time. It's just
Even David Morrell was like, the audience isn't going to understand them. It's like, I get what he was trying to do, but the audience isn't going to get it. Yeah, the creator of the actual Rambo character was very pissed at this movie.
But you know, David Morrell was locked out of production on this film. He
Yep.
has
Right.
no involvement.
He and Stallone had an outline for what would have sounded like Rambo via Logan.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
only like little bits and bobs came out, and then it sounded like Millennium went, "Hey, no, we're not going to make this unless we do the Mexican cartel thing." So as much as we want to give Stallone shit, I think he was just like, "Well, I guess we're not going to get it unless we do what they
Right.
want." So I feel like a lot of the blame is on Millennium. It's like,
Yeah.
this is what Mexico's like, right? It's
Yeah.
like, all right, fine.
I said it when we are now, not going to be used Bloodshot version first pitch. I said that Sony was kind of like the new Canon films, but then after watching this film, I was like, you know what? I take it back.
Millennium Films.
They are the new Canon films. They make films of low budget and low quality.
Yep.
And just slap together a quick trailer. They're usually like 90 minutes maybe. Most of their films
90 to 100.
crappy
typically.
CGI, bad
Oh,
visual
yeah.
effects, really really cheaply made.
Whenever someone gets stabbed in a Millennium Films film,
it looks like the worst
There's
CGI.
no motion blur.
Yeah, there's no
it just like
motion.
flops around like bad rotoscoping.
There's one shot in Last Blood where a guy gets his neck cut and like the blood splatters onto a wall to hit Rambo, the right of Rambo, against like its narrow door frame, and the blood does not change color with the actual scene because of the lighting.
Right.
It's just like it just slams against the wall.
Exit wounds, even in the fourth one, the exit wounds on characters, like it doesn't match whenever like dust kicks up or light passes.
Right.
Yeah,
like
or
it doesn't blend.
Terrible green screen. Like the lighting does not match at all.
When Gabrielle was in the car, I could tell it was green screen. You kind of
you can
like
see
a
some of the
black,
green
faint black
reflection
line
on
around her face.
Yeah, the matting is bad, and it's just have some respect for the quality of the product. Like, you can just see the rough edges of this production. It's cheap.
Like, somehow Millennium...
Like, you
I
have
think,
all this money for Stallone, but why don't you have any money to actually make a decent-looking film?
Because it was just for Stallone.
And how is it that, like, Guns Akimbo, which costs, like, what, like a quarter of the budget than this film, looks infinitely better?
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's a dumb movie, but it's
let's
more
not
it's fun, it's stylized.
Let's not forget the Raid 2 at this point.
The Raid 2.
$4 million.
Oh, my God, yeah. Like, the Raid 2 cost $4 million. How is it that film looks so damn good compared to this?
It's because they invest their budget into making that stuff look good, and this movie said, no, there's an Adobe After Effects thing we can use for this.
Yeah.
Literally.
This is another one of those examples of we'll fix it in post.
We
will fix it in post.
There's a blood...
Yeah, for all filmmakers out there, don't ever think that.
Right.
Okay? For the love of God, don't ever just say, we'll fix it in post. Do as much practically as possible. I can understand putting in like some digital CGI blood here and there for background characters.
Right.
It's like when
not
you said...
for principal actors in the center of the frame.
Jesse, you've actually said yourself that, like, usually the best times where they have to use CG blood is when you know that they might have to reset. And rather than splatter the walls with, practical fake blood, you're like, well, let's just do it this way. Otherwise, we're going to spend another hour to reset the wall. So times like that makes sense.
Yeah, like,
I
or,
get
if,
that.
or if a gag, like, if like the equipment breaks down, like, or something like that, that's perfect time to do it. But when you have the time and you have the money and you had the location set for a certain amount of days, do it practically.
Right. Yeah.
It looks better. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when we saw Django Unchained, when that came out, and that one opening shot where he fires the shotgun into the guy's chest when they're walking through the woods, that it just geyser of blood sprays out of his chest. And that was the first time I'd seen a squib in a film in like 10 years.
Yeah.
It was like having the most epic bowel movement. It was just like...
I mean, that's Tarantino.
Oh, yeah.
It's so satisfying.
Yeah.
But then you look at this, and it's just like a video game.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense, because it's meant to be a realistic, violent film.
Yeah.
There's one hammer hit that he does where he swings down, and on the upswing, blood flies off the hammer.
Yeah.
I have the exact effect.
It's a plug-in effect.
It's a plug-in effect.
It is a plug-in effect,
And,
yes.
And to be even more egregious, you remember on Transformers 2 where you explained why they had to put digital film grain over top of the Transformers to make them look like they were in the film?
Oh, God.
They didn't do that to that effect.
Yes.
No.
So the effect looks like a 3D blood thing coming off of the top of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big yikes.
Shoot it quick. Shoot it fast. Because Stallone wants to go golfing.
Jesus.
Does he golf?
So
He does golf.
I've never seen that.
He does golf. He does golf. Yeah.
So the tunnels. I could have forgiven all of that.
Yeah.
If there hadn't been one shot of a 2-level staircase built in the tunnels where the guys enter from screen left bottom corner, come upstairs, and then that wraps around to a second level of tunnels.
I know exactly what scene.
One shot.
That's the one where he like shoots one guy in the head and the other guy ducks around to the other side.
Yep.
Yep. Like, so he dug not just sideways, he also dug down further.
Yep.
He's an ant.
One guy dug all those tunnels.
Like, sure, give me like 3 wells that he dug down and then dug a straight, square, whatever.
The
Sure.
Twilight Zone ending, we find out they're just in a giant ant farm.
Right.
If it wasn't like a maze of tunnels, but it was like in this is a weird way to compare it, but in the novel Annihilation, the film.
Oh, yeah.
In the novel Annihilation, they refer to like this tower as like a tunnel,
Yeah.
and it goes just down and down and down. There's like a descending staircase. It's like a spiral downwards.
Right.
It's meant to be reflective of the character's personal struggle. They're spiraling downwards and downwards more
Right.
into like this world they're engulfed in. And if it was more like that, where it was like just a spiral down, like a giant tunnel that goes downwards, and there's like these off branches of it, we could understand the geography because
Right.
it's all in one location. In that case, I could understand it, but because it's just like a giant ant farm, and you have no understanding of geography, there's no noticeable landmarks. This could have been all shot at random. You could edit this scene in any order, and it would still make no sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The blacksmith room.
killed you 10
Yeah, where is the blacksmith room in comparison to the rest of it?
Yeah.
It could be just anywhere.
Yeah, that's our one identifiable thing.
And if you're gonna
Center
have
off that,
if you're gonna have that, have somebody get killed in there.
right?
If that's your noticeable landmark of this place, have somebody like walk in there and somebody like gets their face rammed into like the forge.
But
Like then you'd have like a legitimate reason to have that in there. Like
Yeah.
why would you have a blacksmith's forge underground?
And Gabrielle just seems to get there like that when she visits him at
Yeah,
the beginning of the movie.
But okay, and this is why you have to have someone else read your scripts.
Yeah.
The dialogue in the beginning is fucking bullshit. It is like Sci-Fi Channel levels of bad. B, you know how all those guys come into the tunnels and get killed by all these traps that they can't see?
Yeah.
You remember the beginning of the movie where he says, "Yeah, just take all your friends in the tunnels, unsupervised."
Yeah, when he said that, I'm like, wait, what?
So in the entire span of him heading back home at the end of this movie, he's able to dig out all that stuff in the tunnel, place all these traps in there, forge new weapons, and place guns and ammo everywhere so that they may show up. He doesn't know they're going to follow him.
Right? Yeah.
He literally has no idea they're going to follow him. So
He does it twice because he does like the initial prep, goes back to Mexico, kills the brother, and then it's like, well, that'll set him off. And then just comes back and does more prep work. It's like, why didn't you just edit it another way?
There's
where it seemed
literally-
like you were still in Mexico.
yeah,
I don't know.
there's literally no guarantee they're going to follow him back. It's
Yeah.
just that, like I've said, say it with me.
Because
Because the
the
movie
movie
needed
needed
to
to
happen.
happen.
We want that cool sequence of him annihilating people using Vietnam-era kill techniques.
Yeah.
Punji sticks, death traps. You want to see all that stuff.
Right. Which, easy fix. Hey, Gabrielle, you can't go into my tunnels. Just don't show the tunnels at the beginning.
Yeah.
Set it up, and then don't show it.
Or have
Yeah.
it like when he goes into the tunnels, he has to walk around his own traps.
Right.
Like he's got landmines on the roof, or he's got like the deadfalls, around. He has to step around it, like
Right.
all that stuff. He's paranoid. He's a right wing paranoid guy in a bomb shelter.
Right.
Like
Also,
maybe you
there's-
want to go all in on that, do that, but show how fucking nuts he is.
Where's the prepper bunk in there, too? Like, if he's going to live in those tunnels, assumably,
Yeah.
that's the plan of building them.
Yeah, he would have like a kitchen or something down there.
Right.
He'd have a stove. He'd have.
And he's got a
food, he'd
sink,
have-
apparently,
he'd
or at
have,
least
you
that's
know,
how it looked in the one shot.
Yeah.
Or the editing made it look like that.
He'd be living off of like military MREs or something like
Exactly.
that. He'd be a conspiracy theorist, maybe. Like, that's what he would be. Like,
Right.
that's the logical progression.
So
This movie is fucking crap.
it's just so hodgepodge. It is so hodgepodge.
It's a random assortment of crap.
Even the plot is hodgepodge because so as we're watching it, I'm watching this with girlfriend Jessie, and
What was her thoughts?
so she goes, "Oh, it's Taken," and
Yeah,
and then
it's Taken.
It's Taken 1 with a quality of Taken 3.
Not 2 minutes later does a character say, and I even joked about it in the chat.
I remember this.
And then right after, the character says, "If I find you, I will kill you."
Yes, it's the
That is
same
an
exact
actual
scene.
line
Yep.
from a villain in this movie.
I'm fine with lifting stuff from movies, but don't lift literally the stuff from another film that has the exact same subject matter.
But then the movie can't do. The movie says, "Oh man, Taken takes too long. He's going to save her, and then it's going to be violent Home Alone or Saw or whatever
Yeah.
comparison to evil death traps you want to make." The movie can't commit to one whole plot. It goes, well, we want a little bit of this one, and we want a little bit of this one, and this makes sense. But when you look at it in totality, it's like this is such a hodgepodge. It's just a mess of ideas.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie blender, but all the stuff that got put into the blender doesn't blend very well. It's
Right.
like you got pizza, you got ice cream, you got green beans, you got some potatoes, you got some spaghetti in there,
You got some gravel.
and it's just like this. It's like this disgusting thing at the end, and it's just like here. It's all.
This
it does
is
a body
nutritious.
good.
Just
It
as
does a
shitty, if not a bit more nutty.
yes, I remembered that.
Oh, the old days.
Oh man.
Yeah, just this. They're
I
so.
don't think Seth's seen that. We'll have to show.
Yeah, I lost it when we did the movie Blended. with
Blended.
Adam Sandler.
Oh no, yeah, I watched that one.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah, after you
The-
showed
And
me.
I
Stinger.
had a fucking meltdown.
I literally just had him blend like fake covers. They were
It was Jack and
bootleg
Jill,
covers.
That's My Boy, and Grown Ups 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put those in a blender, and then you had a fade cut, or
Yeah.
fade transition to like some
like
protein,
something
like
that you could
protein
actually
powder.
drink.
Protein
Yeah.
powder,
But it
right,
actually
yeah.
like the effect, no pun intended, blended pretty well.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
like takes a fucking sip and that psychotic grin.
And then your face of,
I did
"Get
like,
out!"
Yeah, I did like all the different reactions, and I just went with get out. Oh, the old
I
days.
do miss doing that show. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
That
my
camera-
schedule just wasn't a complete mess right now.
Same.
Right.
Big mood.
To have a reason to go back to the movies instead of streaming bullshit for this show.
Hey, we actually when our
Someday this will
schedules
be a video show.
when our
Someday.
schedules didn't suck, we actually were able to snag quite a few like early screenings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because I remember like with Jesse, it's like, all right, got early screenings for Blended. He's like, why? It's like,
yeah,
because
why?
it's a review show.
Why do you want to do that?
We can't just review stuff we want to see. We have to review anything we can.
See, that's why Red Letter Media has to do so many reviews right now. It's because there's nothing in theaters, and there's not going to be anything in theaters.
Yeah.
What are they going to talk about?
Well, I was surprised they didn't do one for Invisible Man. What was your thoughts on Invisible Man, by the way?
I liked it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Speaking of getting a lot out of a small budget,
There you go.
thank you, Lee Winnell, between that upgrade.
I will, him and Alex Garland, put them together on a project.
Yeah.
Just please put them together on a project. They're
That'd be
great.
nice.
They're probably the two of the best directors working right now.
Lee Winnell is the unsung hero of the original Saw. I mean, James Wan gets a lot of love since he was the director, but it was Lee Winnell who, if not the solo writer, was at least a primary writer.
Right.
I think.
Well, he's also the lead actor in the original short film, and also he's an actor in the first film.
Yeah, he's Adam, the one
and his
chained
dead
up.
body is in the third film.
True, yeah, and they had him for the flashback. No, I feel like he never really got a lot of credit. That's why y'all, were saying, it's like, all right, if Marvel or DC snags him, what film is he going to direct? I said, well, if the Insidious films are anything to go by, Aquaman 3. Because like James Wan directed Insidious 1 and 2, and then Lee Winnell directed Insidious 3.
Right.
So it's like, James Wan directed Aquaman. He's directing Aquaman 2, so just have Lee Winnell direct Aquaman 3.
Which one was Insidious 3? What was the plot?
I've only seen the first one. I never saw the sequels.
First two were great.
I need to see a second one.
I've never.
Okay. All but the last 5 minutes of the first one are fantastic.
Thank you.
Fighting Darth Maul in a dream basement, not a good way to end your film. But the second one, going back and making it so that he is the hauntings that are happening to himself across his life, that was really cool.
Interesting.
I forget what happened in the third one, though.
Isn't that the same plot as a Ghost Story?
Basically.
Yeah, where he goes back in time and he sees himself as a ghost in a previous timeline.
Right.
Have you seen A Ghost Story?
Oh, that's a weird movie that...
I love that movie. It's so goddamn good.
I don't know
It's so quiet, and I like the fact that it's quiet.
I don't know if I'm still digesting it or what, but
It's-
I don't have
It does
official
have
feelings on it yet.
It does have Casey Affleck, who's a fucking disgusting pervert. But,
yes.
But thankfully, you don't see him very much in the film. He gets killed very quickly, and it's him under a bed sheet for about like 90% of the film.
That's right. I remember 3. 3 was pretty good, but it very contained. It was the setup for
lower
those
budget.
It was the setup for those 2 demonologist guys that work with the old lady.
Lee Winnell directed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and Lee Winnell's one of them actually.
Yeah, yep. And then the other one is Angus. Oh shit.
Because I think one of them was called The Last Key or something
Angus
like that.
Sampson, who if I ever fix a movie on this show that I really like, it's going to be one of his films called The Mule, where he plays a Australian guy who goes to, I think,
Is this the
Bangkok?
Is this the Clint Eastwood movie?
No, way better than that.
Okay, good.
He plays a like Australian douche bro that goes to Bangkok with his friends and then gets like pulled into this drug trafficking thing.
I think I've
where
heard of this.
He has to swallow like 16 baggies of heroin.
Oh God!
Like a mule.
And then when he gets picked up at the airport and taken to a hotel room to pass them. But if he doesn't pass them after a certain amount of time, they have to let him go. So he is literally, as secretly as he can, shitting these things out and then re-eating them so that the cops won't find the heroin in him.
Oh,
Jesus
God,
H.
damn.
Christ on a cracker.
It is such a good fucking movie. It is like the plot you're watching and going, that's happening. Oh my God.
Jesus.
That's happening.
Fuck. There was a movie, what was it called? Maria Full of Grace, where it's about mule trafficking, heroin trafficking, I think it's cocaine trafficking. And so they basically put, I think it's cocaine or heroin into condoms, and they give them this this spray that numbs their throat so they can swallow them. Mm-hmm. And one of them, they use very cheap condoms, and one of them breaks while it's inside of her.
Oy.
She's having a horrible reaction to it, and she's dying as she's like making it across the border. That's a very difficult film to watch. It's very depressing. It got nominated for multiple Oscars, but people kind of forgot about it. It's actually a pretty good film. I actually like it. Yeah.
So anyways,
any
excuse not to talk about
on brand, we don't like this movie.
I literally went out of my way to talk about a movie where a guy eats his own shit to talk about this movie.
Talk about
drugs.
eating shit. Let's get back to Last Blood.
Let's throw to a break real quick.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we can maybe
Fix
dump a
this.
little more and hear a pitch.
Yeah. Let's fix this thing.
We'll be right back. Anyone need to go upstairs?
Yep.
Okay.
Go.
Had way too much to drink.
Oh, sure.
Not in a fun way. I got another one of those 24-ounce monsters, all because I got like not even 6 hours sleep. Because I was still writing this thing last night.
Damn.
I went to a Colonial Players party. I was like, oh, I still got 10 writing when I get back. I didn't get back till like 1:30. It's like, oh shit, I'm still finishing Act 3. It feels a little rushed towards the end. I apologize.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can't be more rushed than the end of this movie.
Let's skip to the end.
I mean, there are a lot of things I'd probably patch up a lot more if I went back and did more, but we'll see.
Sure.
I'll do my best.
Speaking of which, if you want to send me the audio for the Bloodshot episode, I can go through it. I can trawl through and see, like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Oh,
Let's
sure.
not talk about that.
I can do that.
Because I'm not going to put in the Eric Heiser, hey, he's been nominated for an Oscar. You know that? I'm not going to. Let's not do that.
Sure.
God, I was angry on that episode. But yeah, consensus between fans is that it's just like half love it, half hate it. So
Yeah.
it's consensus, and that's like just like the reviews, middle of the road. It's as average as you can get. Great job, guys. Whatever. But for BVS, quick question for April 4th BVS, did you want to get Bob and Chris Chipman on the episode?
I'd love to.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Chris wants to do it, and but Bob does not answer his fucking messages.
No, he does not.
So you might want to get Chris to like, hey, can you give me your brother's cell number or something
Sure.
so that I can talk to him?
Sure. Yeah. I'll
It annoyed me when I saw Bob Chipman's review of Bloodshot. I was like, you just referenced the 90s stuff? You didn't talk about the new stuff?
yeah.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna grill him on that one.
I don't think he reads a lot currently. He's very well versed in
Yeah,
like
he's
you
in
know,
classic stuff, but he doesn't
yeah,
read any new
yeah.
stuff.
Because like I love when he does his segments about like, oh yeah, hey, remember when this happened?
Yeah.
Like I love that shit. But he like New 52. Does he even know about the three Jokers? Like
I don't think
you know what I mean? Like, and not saying you have to. I'm sure very very busy. But
Oh yeah, I know.
if that's your brand,
Yeah, I know. But yeah. I mean, if you want to get them on there, that'd be good.
yeah, I'd love that.
So
Even just for the talking about it segment, you know what I mean?
yeah, because I mean, he did a 4.5 hour, just brutal review of BBS. Like, it'd be a nice addendum to hear, like, hey, here's a good version of it.
Right. Maybe we should do the pitch before the date so we can like send it over.
Maybe I could just send it in an email.
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
yeah,
we just send
yeah.
it. You mean just send it to him on an email?
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, here's the thing. If you want to go join this,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good idea. Because that way, like, even if they have to jump off for the pitch section, depending on where we're
that
at
they
for
still
time.
have it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. All right.
They know it's going to be referenced.
I sent it to Nick Berger, and he loved it.
Good.
So I said, here, copy this scene where like Batman's crying over Robin's dead body in a casket in the bottom of the Batcave. My BVS pitch, like I wrote a scene where it's like Batman can't move on with the fact that Robin died, and he keeps his vacuum sealed body in a casket in the bottom of the Batcave, and there's a 1 minute shot of him just sitting there and just staring at it and just crying.
Jason Todd.
I went dark.
Jason Todd or Dick Grayson?
Dick Grayson.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Dick Grayson.
Wow. Did the good one. Okay.
Yeah, like but all the other members
Did
of
you say that name?
all the other members of Bat Family are dead.
Right.
Batwoman's dead. Batgirl's dead. They're all, and there's like gravestones outside behind Wayne Manor. Alfred's dead.
Alfred.
He's alone in that house.
Right.
He's miserable.
Oh man.
There you go.
No, Jeremy Irons Alfred.
See, that gives him a reason to kill because he
or
hates
Andy
everything.
Serkis,
Right.
apparently.
Gives him a reason to kill everybody.
I keep forgetting that he's the new Alfred, Andy Serkis.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
That man has his fingers and toes in all the pies at this point. Every big franchise.
He's a legitimately good actor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even he's like the best part of that awful King Kong movie.
He's like the CG Doug Jones, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you seldom see him as himself, but, you know.
I can do the Gollum voice, by the way. I mean okay. You don't have any friends. You're not listening. Not listening.
I'm not the only one who does voices around here.
I haven't watched those movies in so long, and now I want to. Now that we're quarantined.
Yeah, now that we're quarantined, you got
Jesus.
all the time in the world.
I'm working tomorrow.
I don't understand how like a company like yours doesn't have ability to work from home.
Well, HIPAA. I think plays a big part of that. I think they're a little skittish about having like patient-sensitive stuff.
But that's what VPNs are for. Like your
Yeah.
unit. Like I don't.
I'm sure they're working on it behind the scenes, and they just haven't told us yet.
Sure.
But I just
I don't do company stuff on my computer.
Yeah.
I use an app that has like a resetting password thing to log into a VPN.
Yeah.
And then I'm just using my work computer when I'm working.
I mean, if they want to give me a work computer, that'd be great.
True.
So
Yeah.
it's like Biomatrix. Stop looking at my browser history. Stop looking at my hentai.
Yeah, that's another reason why I like the VPNs. My stuff is my stuff.
Yeah, I'm like nervous for this pitch.
Really?
I'm always nervous whenever I do a pitch anyway. But at least with Final Fight, that was pretty much from like the ground up.
Right.
While this is like, oh, you think this is better than the movie that actually already exists? Haha, fuck you.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it will be.
I feel like I put this one feels a little more convoluted than the one I did for Rambo 3. And I didn't expect to rescue this one because I did Rambo 3 to coincide with Rambo Last Blood when it was in theaters, and then it came out and I saw the reviews like, oh, guess I'm gonna do that one when it comes out.
Right.
So yeah, here we are. Son of a bitch.
Oh my god.
Wow.
I love that song. Yeah, I know it's like
So does Geico.
yeah, I know it's very overused, but like in a vacuum, I love that song.
Vacuum. Sure.
That's how I like to look at things if I can. Just like in a vacuum, The Shining is a good movie. I tried to watch it. Oh, that's right. You were. Oh.
Uh-oh.
I had this grand idea for a YouTube video for Halloween 2018.
Okay.
Where I was going to watch The Shining every night of that month until I went insane from watching it. So what I was going to do is I was going to like vlog me post watching it and have stuff happening in like the background until we get to the very end, and it's like literally I am now in the Overlook Hotel.
Oh my god.
It was going to be great. And I got like 15 days into it, and I was like, I cannot watch this movie again. I was trying to. I had this big YouTube video idea back in 2018 where I was going to watch The Shining every night until I went crazy. And I got about 2 weeks into it, and I was like, I can't watch this movie again.
Yeah.
I cannot do this.
Somewhere Stephen King is going, right?
Yeah. Did anybody watch Dr. Sleep?
Not in theaters.
I still haven't, but I heard good things.
Mike Flanagan's pitching a good arm.
It'd be great to have him on an episode.
Oh,
but
I'd love
we'd never get him. But.
Yeah, the former Marylander, the former Bowieite, in fact.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Baba Booey. Yeah, I'd love to have him on.
Baba Booey.
He's just
Power Charge Painters, Baba Booey.
There's your ending for the episode. Baba Booey.
He's very big. He left Dr. Sleep to go back to Haunting of Hill House season 2.
Yeah.
And if season 1 is anything to indicate, that is going to be a complicated set to work on.
Yeah. Well,
I should probably finally watch it.
Here's the thing, like the first season covers the entirety of the book. What do you do now?
That's
like, what the fuck do you do?
It's the opposite of Game of Thrones, I guess.
Yeah, it's like you have like nothing else to work with.
right.
I don't know. I'm sure he can come up with something. But
Yeah.
I have a feeling like when something like that happens, usually the second season or the continuation is not as good as the original. It almost never is.
No, unless he's got some good source material to run. See, that's his thing.
Or it's going to be like a Die Hard movie where they take another book and just adapt it for that
exactly.
material. Yeah.
Because he's at his best when he's doing good material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something like Hush is just like
crap.
Yeah, it's like
clearly he did it for the money.
we have this one good idea. We're going to do 2 things to flesh it out, and then just bolt for the finish.
Yeah.
But then you have things like Haunting of Hill House or Dr. Sleep or basically his last like 3 or 4 movies that are like, oh, this is good material. You're doing really good stuff with it. He's not when he does jump scares, it's like earned and scary and like actually makes you jump.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, he's really good at that. Just like, is that a ghost in the background?
He's good at building tension.
Oh yeah.
I mean, half the enjoyment of that show is just looking for the ghosts.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a face in the background. Like what? The right. It's creepy.
I love that.
The irony of having a 3-hour cut of Dr. Sleep that people liked versus the hour and 20-minute slog of Hush.
Right.
It's so ironic.
Yeah.
Pacing, it's everything.
Because in the book, like the hotel was burned down.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it's like it's meant to be a sequel. It's an adaptation of the book, but it's also a sequel to the movie of The Shining.
Right.
Yeah, like
It's trying to make both camps happy, and it's like,
And he talked to Stephen King about that before he made the movie. It's like,
Oh.
all right, so I'm just letting you know now.
Right.
Since everyone knows the movie.
Well, here's the thing: the Shining novel is not great. It really isn't that good.
Maybe
It's-
that's why the
it's
miniseries
okay.
wasn't good.
It's okay.
Right.
But like the movie definitely has more of a following than the actual book does. The movie's actually about something.
Right.
The book, it's not about anything.
That's
it's just another like pulpy novel that he wrote.
Another coke-fueled novel.
I've always
Very
said
much so.
the remakes would not have happened if it weren't for Tim Curry. No one would remember that. No one would care.
Yeah, nobody.
Oh,
gives a
the
shit.
one about the kids banging each other in the sewer? Yeah, that's the one. No,
Yeah.
not happening. Tim Curry elevated that, and that's what he did with Dr. Sleep. Instead of towing the line between the two, like, are we adapting the book? Are we doing a sequel?
Kind of do a little of both.
He threw everything onto Ewan McGregor and made it about his like dealing with the loss of his father and alcoholism, and he made it very human and centered, and that's why it works.
And that's why you have like Jack playing the bartender in Dr. Sleep
Exactly.
rather than having the original character there, because it's like he's becoming more and more like his dad.
Exactly.
So it's more appropriate. The film's actually about something.
Right.
I still think it's the movie is way too long. It's way too long.
Yeah,
but overall,
the actual cut's 2.5 hours.
yeah, and
Right.
the,
And
and the
director's
extended cut
3.
is like 3.
Yeah,
It's
3
like,
hours.
But I don't think we really needed a 3-hour cut, but I appreciate the fact that they really went all out to make it as good as they could.
That's like residual leftovers from making a series for Netflix that is shot all at one time, where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we basically shot an 8-hour movie. How do I come back from this?
Well, that's what The Stand is going to be. It's a 10 episode series on Netflix now.
Absolutely.
And they got, was it Alexander Skarsgård is going to be playing Randall Flagg,
Oh,
the Man in Black. So,
interesting.
yeah. Then they'll maybe get that Dark Tower show. Oh, that's right. They didn't pick that up.
No.
They didn't pick up the Dark Tower TV show.
I mean, there are 2 cool scenes in the movie, so I'm not shocked.
Well, the show was supposed to be a prequel.
Oh.
The show is supposed to be a prequel detailing the war between the Man in Black and the Gunslingers.
And wasn't
how
the runtime for that film like the polar opposite, like too short?
It's like an hour and a half.
Jesus.
They condensed seven or 8 books down to an hour and a half.
How did he get away with doing Palpatine versus the Jedi, but with gunslingers and the Man in Black? How did he get away with that? And no one was like, "Are you doing multiverse Star Wars?"
It's worth noting that at the end of the first book of the Gunslinger, they do meet up and they just talk. They don't fight.
I love that.
They just talk. Like they just sit there and they just talk, and like because Roland is like a believer. He's like an evangelical Christian.
yeah.
But at the end of that story, like Randall Flagg is like, I'm going to tell you what the universe is really about. And he tells him that there's basically this multiverse
Right.
that the universe exists in. And he shows him like the formation of the 9 planets of the solar system. And apparently, when he wakes up, like 200 years has passed.
Right.
And the Man in Black is just laying there as like a corpse, dead.
Yeah.
Like he gave all of his
Well,
power to show Roland that he's actually a horrible person, that he doesn't, that everything he believes is wrong. And so, yeah, but then he eventually comes back, obviously. But
Right.
because the main villain is the Crimson King, which is based upon the song "In the Court of the Crimson King" by King Crimson.
Nice.
That's the main theme of the Dark Tower series. That song, every single line of that song, that's basically what the books are.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
one song.
So no one can shit on me for liking Coheed and Cambria then, writing their stories into their lyrics. I love Coheed so much.
Yeah,
I literally have a Coheed tattoo.
yeah.
There you go.
They're such a great band. Oh my god, if we got an Amory Wars movie. Mark
Probably not.
Wahlberg was trying to do that for a minute.
Why?
I don't know.
He's bored.
I guess he's interested. I don't know.
It's a cool idea. Anyways, you want to jump back into the show, or can I talk about Amory Wars? Or Early Edition, which do you prefer?
Son of a bitch!
There's no way to connect Early Edition back to this movie.
You say that.
That's not a challenge. Just let it go. Just let it go.
Don't tempt me.
Just, God damn it.
All right. Welcome back to the show. I have no idea who did the break on this one. I know since Michael's been busy, I've been throwing it off to other people, friends of the show, and they've been doing a great job with it. Based on the material, likely Victor, maybe Devin. Definitely not Nick.
Well then.
Well, because he was just on the show, too.
Ah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I did listen to your Transformers episode when you had a fucking meltdown.
just
That's the best. Because
It's like, oh no,
because,
Jesse's rubbing off on him.
Because fuck this movie. It's like, yep. Oh god. Did you see when Red Letter Media did a review of Transformers 5, and it was just like 20 minutes of Transformers sound effects.
Yeah,
it was the Plinkett review of Transformers 5, and it was just Transformers sound effects for about like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he said bye, and that was the end of the episode.
when they play, I think 1, 2, and 3 right next to each other.
Oh,
and,
God.
and they start to
God.
sync
Oh,
up. Like
They
Jesus.
sync up for like 1 minute, and it's like it gets very quiet at the exact same time, and everyone's like, "What? That was insane."
that's like when you're watching Wizard of Oz, listening to Pink Floyd.
And it all matches up
And it all
perfectly.
Fucking Dark Side of the Moon.
Have you guys heard about Dark Side of the Blart?
Oh no.
If you play Paul Blart 2
You're
along
kidding
with
me.
Pink Floyd, not only does it match up, the titles of the songs introduce what the next scene is going to be.
Are you fucking
what the
kidding
fucking
me?
fuck?
It is like not even a joke, like odd, just oddly intentional.
Is there a video you can link me to?
I will link you a video.
Please, dear God, I need to see this.
Because as
This sounds like crazy conspiracy theory shit, like Illuminati confirmed, but still, I need to see this.
what's the song about money on Dark Side of the Moon? It's
Money.
it's towards the back half of the. Is it just money?
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that song starts when he walks into the room that has all the cash in it,
Yeah.
and it matches up perfectly to the pacing of that
That's it.
scene. Yeah. It's
It's a crap.
it's weird. It's weirder than Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
I would say that.
Send me a link to that.
I absolutely will.
Yeah, because the thing with Wizard of Oz, apparently, like you have to play it like 2.5 times, something like that.
Right.
Something weird. Because I forget how long Dark Side of the Moon in full is, but yeah, I think it's like 2.5 times, something like that. I've never actually tried it, but I've heard of it for years and years. And I've like read articles like talking about how like it hits certain things. But Pink Floyd over the years has been like, yeah, no, we never did anything like that.
Once again, on brand, we don't want to talk about this movie.
That's us.
That's us.
I mean, granted, at this point, we're not talking about the actual movie anymore, but
Yeah.
rather the what if
we
movie.
sometimes we'll say with an asterisk, yeah, go ahead and watch this movie if you are drunk or if you're high. Or it's like, don't watch.
It's
this
like
movie.
a Jeremy Jones review.
Just don't watch this movie.
Good time if you're drunk.
Just watch 1, 2, and 4, and that's it.
Yep.
And
You
even
got your
then,
trilogy.
like 2 and 4, they're not even great movies. Like,
Yeah.
look at the Rotten Tomatoes score. I mean, for everything after the first film, they all are in the 30%.
Yeah.
They're all considered bad.
I have one more egregious thing about this film I wanted to bring up. And it's the montage in the credits of the past films.
Oh, that is such a fucking cheap shot.
Yeah.
if
Such
the-
a cheap shot.
If there's another movie,
This movie's about something, bullshit.
It's Rocky V all over again. They
Yeah.
did the same goddamn thing.
if there's another
But
movie
Measure of
after
a Man
this,
isn't playing.
Yeah.
One of the worst Elton John songs of all time.
if there's another movie after this, it totally undoes the reason for that montage.
Yep. Yeah.
But they start the montage off with the actually good, like, prescient, well-written scene of him breaking down in the first movie and crying in the police station.
Yeah.
Like, great cinema. That's playing right after Rocky, wow. Right after Rambo dies or doesn't die,
Yeah.
and then it's him crying. And it's like, why are you showing me one of the best parts of this entire series right after that ending?
And also,
Yeah.
like what happened right before that was he tore out a guy's fucking heart.
He went full
way
Kano.
to literally tug on someone's heartstrings.
Right.
It's so fucking manipulative.
Do you guys ever see Last of the Mohicans?
Oh yeah.
That's the best version of that trope. Literally tearing someone's heart out.
Jeez.
But Last of the Mohicans is actually a really good film.
Right. Weird.
It's really good. Yeah.
That's the only other bad thing I have to say. I probably have more bad things to say, but that was the
Oh,
one
I'm
that, like,
sure.
This, like the pacing's bad, the story,
Yeah.
like it's only like 78 minutes long, yet it feels like it's 5 fucking days.
Right.
Yeah.
The structure is sloppy. The dialogue is terrible.
Why the
There's-
movie has 10 minutes of end credits is beyond me.
Well, had the fucking runtime. Like the movies.
Then why did they cut 10 minutes out? I don't. It doesn't make sense.
The movie's color palette is just brown and gray the
Yeah.
entire time. There's no
Yeah.
color at all in this entire movie.
No.
It's just ugly to look at.
this movie literally said, Bechdel test, fuck you.
Yeah.
Sweet paper Jesus.
Three main female characters, and none of them interact with each other.
Yeah, this movie is a total sausage fest. This is like machismo overload.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like it says, it's about kill your way to victory, uber right wing, tough guy, macho bullshit is the thing that will save the day. And it's like it's okay to do that when it's like fun and in jest, like Commando. But
Right.
in reality, that stuff usually gets innocent people killed.
Right.
Okay, it's not a thing you should really endorse.
The two brothers are brothers via they have long hair. Like
They look exactly the same.
they look like the same person. Name me the scene that like shows them being brothers.
Yeah.
One of them was cut. This is what
Oh,
I'm talking-
really?
Yeah. Go on moviecensorship.com. There's like a scene with the two of them. I forgot what they're talking about.
Get the
but-
movie down to 90 minutes. Get it down to 90 minutes. The ruthless editor was told, get it to 90 minutes.
I love those ruthless editors. Though. They're good people. Salt of the earth people.
Justice League, get it down to 2 hours and 5 seconds.
It doesn't have to make sense.
It does.
The movie doesn't have to make sense.
Just cut it.
Oh my god.
So Superman shows back up.
For why? How did he know they were there?
They use Speed Force lightning and some kind of thing within a ship that none of them understand and zap him back to life after he's been dead for who knows how. Anyways.
So about that coronavirus.
Right. I need
Do you
some
know
of that.
anybody that's been infected yet? God. Jesus. They better find a cure soon.
Canada's working on it, man.
Yeah, what a surprise.
Newt Gingrich is apparently trapped in Italy right now. And he said, yeah, America, do something, please.
Wow.
Like, when that guy's...
Seth,
when
Seth, you
that
went full
guy is...
Arnold with your wow. Wow.
Wow.
He's stuck over here. That's kind of funny.
I'm gonna.
That brings up another thing I want to discuss. Like, Stallone keeps his politics usually pretty private.
For good reason.
For good
Yeah.
reason. But, like, he's not the only, like, right-wing person in Hollywood. Like, Bruce
No.
Willis is right-wing. Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger is a right-wing Republican.
Arnold's very progressive.
But he's
though.
progressive,
Like, the older
and he seems like a
gets-
decent person.
Yeah.
Tim Allen.
Tim Allen, yeah. Like,
The weird thing about Tim Allen is he says, like, he plays the conservative
He
on Last Man
plays the
Standing,
stereotype.
but he says he's more, like, in the middle.
Yeah, he's
allegedly.
more centrist.
So,
he's sort of like a
yeah.
send-up. Like, or like,
he's a, like, anarchist or some shit like that.
yeah, like, but Stallone, like, this kind of reveals, like, he may be just like an old right-wing guy. It's just his age is infringing on his creative life.
Here's the weird thing about that. He was having an idea for another film in the Rocky universe. I don't know what you would call it. He was making it sound less of a Creed 3 and more of a Rocky 7, although it still sounds a little too much like Creed, where like he would end up taking an illegal immigrant under his wing. And
I
trying to
heard
like,
about this.
yeah, so it's like, then why'd you make Rambo Last Blood?
Well,
it's like, it seems the polar opposite.
Isn't he an immigrant in a real life? And in Rocky, the first Rocky, isn't he like an Italian immigrant, or his parents were immigrants?
He's
or like...
of Italian descent, but I don't know if he's actually an immigrant. I don't
I think he
believe
was
so.
born in America.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
But Rocky definitely like that. The whole Italian immigrant thing that's the dream, right? Like it's the
Achieving the American dream.
Yeah,
That's what the first Rocky is about.
It's the anti-Scarface. It's like like we came here to do a good job and
that's
box.
the Rocky and Rambo characters are very different characters.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
those are the two that he's most well known for, but they're very different characters. And ironically, Rocky is the one that he created.
Yeah.
I mean, Rambo he kind of like took, but Rocky was his from scratch. That's,
Yeah.
You mean
so.
he's not known for his character in Lockdown or the subsequent sequels, Lockdown 2?
no escape plan.
Oh, Escape
I was
Plan,
about to
that's
say,
it.
like, there is no lockdown. Too.
Maybe it's called
Escape.
Lockdown in another country.
There's-
Lockdown's the escape
There's
plan
3
prequel.
escape plan movies.
Yeah, there are. Mike told us
and
all
they're
about them.
all awful.
As Mike said,
They're all
Mike
awful.
is still very angry about that.
He and I saw Escape Plan in the theater together.
Why?
Man. Like
Because he wanted to see it.
The only draw was that it was Stallone and Schwarzenegger together, but it was too little, too late, and you already had seen them together in, like, I think by that point, 2 of the Expendables films.
Yeah.
So, and it worked better in those movies, even in the short cameo in the first one.
What?
Stallone's just Adam Sandler. He's just going on vacations to make his movies.
God, you're right.
But go to different countries, not Bulgaria, over and over again.
Well, we don't know what's in Bulgaria that keeps him coming back.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Not even
Bulgaria.
I'm not.
If you listen to
touching
this
that.
podcast, I'm going to look at the statistics later, find out what 3 people over there listen to
Bulgaria, viva Bulgaria.
this. Please let us know. Stallone's
I'm not
coming
even-
back to your
I'm not
country.
even touching that. Please get to the pitch. Go. Do it.
I'm
Dear
just
God.
shitting on the movie. I'll keep going until you want to go.
Do we have a pitch? Oh yeah, I do. It's right here,
Jesus
right
Christ.
here in my hand. So yes, Rambo Last Blood is now Rambo Final Blood. It's such a
Thank you.
like aesthetic choice, but really it's to help with the alliteration with the original First Blood title.
Yeah.
It's like
Why
you
is
know,
it that we always get to movies like this and it's like we always say like, please end this franchise. It's like we've done this multiple times where it's
Yeah.
like, please God end it. It's like, are we all that cynical
Yeah.
at this point?
Yeah.
Do we need these kind of movies anymore, though?
Not really.
That's the thing. That's the problem. It's like with franchises, like the best thing you do is try to adapt with the times. Some
Right.
do, some don't.
Yeah.
Or some learn from their mistakes and adapt. If a film still does well enough,
Right.
they manage to adapt with the next film.
Yeah, it's like
So-
RLM pointed it out with like Terminator Dark Fate. Like, why would they send a machine back in time? We could just sit like, why don't you like send back a virus in a bomb and then cover it in human flesh and then you can just send that back?
Right.
There's really no reason they can't do that. It's
Sure.
just called the Terminator.
Yeah.
It's like some franchises just don't evolve with the times.
And like
No.
this story has evolved, and we are still getting good versions of it. I brought it up in the group chat. You Were Never Really Here is the best version of this movie, where
Yeah.
like all the war stuff is kind of background PTSD, driving him fucking insane. Shit happens in the movie that we're not even sure actually happened.
Yeah.
The hammer scene happens off screen, so we don't have to be subjected to this violence because it's all about like the anticipation of the violence.
Yeah.
We can do the good version of this.
It's true.
yeah.
Do we need this movie anymore?
Yeah.
This franchise anymore?
But yeah, so that being said, a lot of the changes to begin with, first of all, 4 films, Rambo had long hair and a headband. This one, he did not. He just looked like Stallone. I didn't care for that. It's
No.
like, once you change up the look of a character, you start to lose me. Like,
Sure.
no matter how big or small. Like, even going back to, like, say, Lethal Weapon 4 and Mel Gibson just had a short hair. It's like, that's not Riggs anymore. That's just Mel Gibson.
Right.
Yeah, well,
So-
I think the idea was like he wanted to become more domesticated back in American life, but it's still like it's not the character.
No, it's not. So in this case, like keep the long hair, the headband, kind of slowly work your way back in, so it doesn't seem like it's forced. Gabrielle, like I said, she's not a damsel in distress this time. She actually is someone who, over the last 10 years that Rambo has, gotten to know her since he's, come back home. He's like slowly trained her.
Yeah.
Just, it's like, hey, you need to learn how to defend yourself. But like the older she gets, like the more he'll train her in like survivalist things, worst case scenario, if you get lost or something like that,
Right.
do this, and this. So, she actually has this training at home. So
You
that
had a-
being said,
You had a recast for her, right?
no, I'm still, for the most part, I would keep her.
She was
I'm-
fine.
yeah.
It's just give her material to work with.
exactly. Like, that poor girl knew how to cry on cue. Like,
True.
oh, Jesus. Like, it didn't look like they gave her fake tears. Like, always, you could see it welling up and just dropping out. Like,
Except for
on
that
cue.
one where she is in the car and she dies, and then
Yeah.
the tear. That's clearly a CGI tear.
It might have been. yeah.
Clearly, that was CGI.
But all the other ones, especially like when
some
her-
of the lighting doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Johansson.
like when she meets her father and he's telling her off, which by the way was like a total switch flip in that moment.
Oh yeah.
It's like that was totally a natural segue to explain. It's like, oh yeah, well, I just didn't like you. Bye. But no, like seeing her eyes well up and like just the tears drop. Like I feel like if like Jesse, like you said, if you gave her more material or better material,
Sure.
she could pull that off.
Yeah.
So
An actor is only as good as the material that they're given.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I do feel like and I really couldn't think of anybody else at the time either. So it's
Sure.
like, just stick with her.
Isaac
you know?
Gonzalez. I'm casting her in everything from now on.
Sure. I mean, sure. Why not?
But like I said, the character's a little older this time because, rather than wanting to go into college, she's already in college, but, she's mounting debt. So, we'll get to that reasoning in the pitch. And we still have Maria, the former, I guess, maid of, Robert Rambo or whatever his father's name was.
Yeah, Robert.
Yeah,
Robert.
so she just stayed there because, John Rambo just felt like she's basically been part of the family. And,
Sure.
it was because of her that Rambo met Gabrielle and kind of became like a adoptive niece to him. So, he kind of raised her as his own. But then we also start bringing in new characters. So to begin with, we have a returning character. We have Mitch Rogers, who is now a sheriff in Hope, Washington. And this was the character played by David Caruso in the original film, where he was just a deputy.
Okay.
So
I
he's,
forgot he was in that movie.
yeah, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
Um,
This case is cold as ice.
So we're bringing him back into the fold. But we also have some new characters. We have the descendants of Art Galt, being. I know Sheriff Teasel is sort of like the main quote unquote villain of First Blood, but I feel like it was a lot of Galt's bullshit that pushed Rambo over the edge, and Teasel's like, well, now I got to do damage control.
Teasel's just like doing his job.
Yeah, I mean, he's
still an asshole.
Yeah,
but it's like,
I mean, he's the one that ran him into the police station, but he was still, for the most part, following his protocol, aside from just being
an
prejudiced.
asshole is not the same as being an abusive asshole.
Which we have Galt.
Yeah,
he's the one that took it. Much
He's the one that
further.
pushed him over the edge.
Exactly.
I love that Jesse's the one to make that distinction. Being an asshole is different than being an
Being an
abusive
asshole is not a crime. Torturing prisoners, that's a crime.
Yep.
Yes.
There
agreed.
you go. And of course, as everyone says, like Rambo doesn't really kill a bunch of people in the first one. Like he indirectly causes Art Galt's death in the first movie by chucking the rock at the helicopter, and Galt, of course, to get a better shot, unhooked himself, but it disturbed the pilot. Helicopter shook, and Galt falls to his death.
Right.
So it's pretty much his own stupidity and ambitious nature to go after him that got him killed. But that doesn't mean that his descendants didn't take that and want to run with that. So we have Don Galt, now played by Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Hell yeah.
Why not?
So it's the rematch from the
this my
Expendables that
water
you never
from the
knew
other
you
night?
wanted.
It was, yeah.
There we go. I have my water again.
Nice.
It's from our not being uploaded Bloodshot episode.
Nice.
Because I had some whiskey in me.
There you go.
So bad, Patreon won't even get it.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I was angry.
Only for the $100 subscribers.
Not even for that.
It's that bad.
Dinesh has a lot of money and a lot of power. I'm not going to poke that hornet's nest.
No. What does this button do?
And
Hit the whopper
upload.
button.
Push the fucking whopper button.
We've got bagels.
But yeah, so aside from Don Galt, who is, like I said, that's his son. He's obviously much older. He's probably like, actual Stone Cold Steve Austin's age, like early to mid 50s.
Okay.
But we have his own sons. We have Eric and Mike. Eric, unfortunately for him, fortunately for the heroes, doesn't really want to follow his ways because Don is sort of like this pastor, but he has his own ulterior motives that we'll get into.
Stone Cold Steve Austin delivering a sermon at one point in this, that's the stuff dreams are made of.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, it's one of those like those weird things like this shouldn't be happening, but it is. It's like
Is he religious?
Stone Cold?
Yeah.
Like in real life? Yeah.
Very
Do you
religious.
listen to his podcast?
No,
I didn't know he
I
had
didn't
his
even know
own.
he had a podcast.
Dude, his podcast is amazing.
Wow.
He's like if Joe Rogan was confrontational.
And that's the bottom line.
It's awesome.
Damn, where'd you put on these hot wings? I'm gonna fire up my ass.
I saw that episode.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus.
But yeah, so you have his two sons, and basically they're like polar opposites. You have the younger son, Eric, who kind of follows more Mitch's lead because Mitch does things more by the book. He is the sheriff of the town. But then you have Mike, who's basically just, his father's clone, more or less. And, going, Jesse, by your suggestion, obviously Don is a extremist, white nationalist,
Yeah.
basically neo-Nazi.
That's the big... That when you were saying you were going to do this episode, I said the big change of this film is don't have it be Mexicans.
Yeah, no.
Make
That
it racist, but the right way.
Yeah, like,
Exactly.
if you want to, what's a current day villain that we can definitely use? The KKK,
There you
the
go.
neo Nazis, and like recently, the department was it Homeland Security recently declared the KKK and white nationalists as a terrorist organization.
Took long enough.
There you go. Like, yeah, it took long enough. Like, it's like, yes, they are a threat.
Right.
That's a real threat.
Yes.
And if anything, they are the embodiment of the very right-wing America that soldiers in Vietnam came back to.
Yeah.
They are, that connects back thematically
Sure.
to the first
Sure.
film.
There you go.
So there you go. That's like, if you're going to have Rambo kill anybody for satisfaction, those are the ones that are the threat.
Sure.
So yeah,
There you go.
not Mexicans. Like, God.
But yeah, to further complicate things with the newer characters, we have Dave Rogers, who is Mitch's son, and it's sort of the opposite of with Eric. He kind of blindly follows Don's white nationalism. So you have, basically Don and Mike being the two, or not Don and Mike, but you have Mike and Dave being basically like the right-hand men for Don and his missions that we'll
Right.
get into. But basically, I'm just introducing everybody before we get into the pitch.
Sure.
But that being said, I think we just get into it for the time being, and I'll try to answer any questions and see if this actually makes any sense, or if I was just typing frantically between work and late nights at home.
And this is set in the Northwest again, right?
It
back
ends
in
up
Hope?
up there.
Okay.
It starts in Bowie, Arizona,
Okay.
where we left off with the fourth film. So to begin with, the film will open with a scene that was cut from the American theatrical cut of Last Blood, where Rambo is attempting to rescue 3 lost hikers amidst a torrential downpour. The scene will still culminate with him only being able to save one of them and returning to the tunnels under his home, and his PTSD triggering with a combination of survivor's guilt and just a general shitstorm.
Yeah.
Are the tunnels going to be like a giant ant hive, or are they going to
No.
be like just one big tunnel?
No, that was actually the next thing. I was saying that, however, the tunnels will not be nearly as elaborate. It will not be a labyrinth. It's meant to be more Rambo's, for lack of a better phrase, Fortress of Solitude, rather than foreshadowing for the Home Alone-like finale of Last Blood.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just basically him to hide away when he needs to get away from everybody. That's it. Just something a little more normal, something a little more realistic that could have been dug out over the last decade.
Yeah, like
So-
one guy cannot dig out, even with like all the time in the world. There's
And all
not enough.
the construction crew friends.
That's just so much work.
Yeah.
That's so much.
And,
like,
and we're assuming he had a dump truck to take all that dirt somewhere too.
I mean, there's
Yeah,
that
like, where'd
one
the
moment
dirt
he's
go?
got that bulldozer in that one moment.
That's true.
I was like,
Yeah.
where did that come from?
he just has all this random stuff on his ranch. Like,
Yeah.
Like, really? Okay.
Ace is a place for the hardware folks.
Where will the money come from to take care of that?
Right.
Like, I know
Because
you
the
can-
movie needed
I kn-
to happen.
I know he has a backlog of.
From Millennium
From-
Films.
I'm sure he has a backlog of money owed to him by the U.S. government for
Oh,
his
right.
services, but it probably wouldn't cover that much.
No.
Jesus.
No.
Whatever. Continue.
And hey, maybe there's leftovers from his dad. Who the hell knows?
Sure.
Sure.
But yeah, so as Rambo is in his personal confinement, Gabrielle comes home asking her grandmother Maria where, quote-unquote, Uncle John is. She tells her that he's in recovery at the moment, and Gabrielle asks the tunnels, and she just replies, the tunnels. Gabrielle decides to go down there while Maria tries to warn her not to, but as she goes underground, she can hear the sound of a hammer smashing on metal. She eventually makes her way to the core and sees Rambo forging a knife. As she carefully calls out, he turns startled. While he tells her she shouldn't be down there, she wants to reassure him that she and Maria are there for him and for him to come up for dinner. So basically, that's sort of like his reminder, hey, you're not alone. Please come back up. We know you need your time to yourself, but we're here as well.
right.
So then we eventually fade to Hope, Washington, and we see a white nationalist march taking place in the streets with police blocking protesters. We eventually cut to an interior of a police station as the group marches past. Looking out the window is Sheriff Mitch Rogers, who looks visibly displeased. And like I said, this was the character who was just a deputy in the first film. One of the few who actually calls Galt and the others out on their bullshit. He's like, do you realize this guy is nuts? Like, he says something like that in the first movie. Like, not exactly the best way to say he's got PTSD. It's like, can't you see this guy's crazy? Like, that's code for, guys, we should probably stop.
Right.
So even then, he was like one of the few to go, I don't know about this.
Right.
Don't poke that hornet's nest.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
Yeah. But he begins lamenting to a deputy, stating that they shouldn't, quote-unquote, push people just because they may come across different, referencing his own experience nearly 40 years earlier. Shortly after, a tall, muscular man with a shaved head walks in. This is Donald Galt. Unlike Rogers, Galt seems very pleased at the march taking place outside, stating that he hopes this will make the city more American again. Galt then calls out Rogers for having not been in church lately, while Rogers calls out Galt's sermoning to be hypocritical and possibly having ulterior motives. It's obvious that the two men don't have a positive bond with one another, with the only acquaintance they have due to Galt's father being Rogers' former superior in the early 80s. Galt tells Rogers to say hi to his younger son, Eric Galt, for him, since apparently they have a better bond. So there's already a little bit of animosity between the two of them because their sons have kind of like switched sides for the most part. But returning to Rambo's home, we see him taking solace in one of his few pastimes as he rides horses on his farm. In the distance, he sees a mail truck delivering in the mailbox down the long road, so he then rides horseback to the mailbox, hopping off to collect the mail, when he notices a letter to Gabrielle from the U.S. Army. He hops back on the horse and returns to the house, and shortly after, Gabrielle comes home and sees Rambo sitting on his rocking chair on the front porch. He holds up the letter from the Army and suggests that they take a ride to chat. But rather than hopping in one of their vehicles, they go horseback riding. Rambo understands that Gabrielle is an adult who needs to make her own choices in life, but has obvious concerns about her joining the Army. Gabrielle makes her case that her college tuition hasn't been getting any cheaper, especially having to take additional semesters, and feels she doesn't have much direction in life. She also says that the survivalist training that Rambo has given her as she's grown up would help with plenty of potential scenarios. She suggests that they take a trip to a bar outside of town, Morel's.
I get it.
Get it?
I get it.
To discuss it
Not
more.
bad. Not bad.
Yeah. So we cut to a city in Mexico where we see a young man, Eric Galt, partying with a couple of friends. Suddenly, two men in drab attire and crew-cut hairstyles, Mike and David, approach him. And Mike tells him that their father needs Eric to come back immediately. Eric initially refuses, but almost immediately after gets a phone call from Donald. Donald, more stern than Mike, warns Eric that if he doesn't return to Hope, that he will come down there and quote-unquote collect him himself. So, yeah, basically a long drive back. Later in the day, Rambo and Gabrielle go to the aforementioned tavern just outside of town as they both have a drink at the bar. Gabrielle still tries to state her case, saying Rambo must have had some positives in his time in the Army. He confirms this and begins to reminisce about his time in Baker Team, especially with Delmore Berry and Joey Danforth. Rambo realizes he forgot something in his Jeep and heads outside for a moment. As he does so, he sees a black Hummer with Eric and Mike Galt, as well as Mike's friend/associate David, all get out of the vehicle and head into the bar. The three of them sit at a booth and make Eric get drinks for the three of them. Eric heads up to the bar, starts to make conversation with Gabrielle, and the two start to hit it off. Rambo comes back in and sees this, so he sits at one of the booths to give her some privacy while still being aware of the surroundings. Mike and David, however, begin discussing plans for when they return to Hope, and when they finally realize that Eric hasn't returned with their drinks, they eventually make their way up. But beforehand, Eric gives his number to Gabrielle if she's ever in town, but then Mike intersects Gabrielle and Eric, and David appearing behind her. Mike initially tries to flirt with Gabrielle, albeit in an insulting and racist way. Actually, when I was first writing this, I was writing out like full lines of dialogue. It's like, this is taking too long. And yeah, the initial lines I wrote is like, I just felt bad writing them.
Oh, sure.
Because like he was using the derogatory terms that one would use. And
Right.
Like,
We get it.
Yeah, exactly.
we get it.
Yeah.
So, are these MAGA Americans, or are these just outright racists?
The way
Or is there a difference?
the way they talk about AOC.
Oh,
There you
yeah,
go.
okay.
That's
Gotcha.
your dialogue.
There
That's
you
your
go.
dialogue.
By the way, she is a treasure.
Oh, what
I love her.
what a wonderful person.
What a wonderful
She
person.
danced in a video.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
so horrible.
I remember like everyone was so angry about that. It's like, why?
Yeah. I was
Like, God forbid she had fun in the video. Jesus
I hope
Christ.
the entire South just fucking burns. if you're in fucking Alabama, fuck you. I don't even remove that. Leave it in.
I have a lot of family in Alabama.
They also just what was it? They put in a new abortion bill that said if you try to have an abortion, they will be put in jail for murder.
Oh yeah, politically things.
So
are
about
good.
the Star Wars holiday special.
Genesis with a Y?
So, all that being said, Eric tries to stop Mike, but he shoots him down fast. Remember, even though they're brothers, Mike obviously is far more like the racist asshole, while Eric is not. Rambo takes notice of the situation, but Gabrielle verbally stands up for herself. However, Mike grabs the back of her neck, which causes her to lock his arm and slam his head into the bar.
Hell yeah.
Rambo jumps up, and before David can attack, Rambo punches him across the face. He then grabs the still locked-up Mike from Gabrielle's grip and launches him into one of the empty booths. While on autopilot, Rambo suddenly grabs Eric until Gabrielle tells him that he's cool and not to attack. Eric realizes he should get the three of them out of there, apologizing for the disturbance. As the three of them leave the bar, Mike looks at the license plate of Rambo's vehicle, since he saw him outside, only to make a call asking for a favor. Rambo checks if Gabrielle is okay and was pleasantly surprised by her countermaneuver on Mike. They both look around and notice a few other patrons looking startled and feel like they need to leave as well. They walk
So
outside.
Han Solo throws the coin to the barkeeper. Sorry about the mess.
Sorry about the mess.
They walk outside and see the Hummer gone, but notice the four tires of Rambo's Jeep have been slashed. For the next scene...
Can I change that?
Sure.
We were just discussing this last night, weirdly.
Really?
Tire slashing, to be specific. If you slash 3 tires,
Yeah.
insurance will not cover it. I'm going to make sure I get this right.
Really?
If all 4 of your tires are slashed, they will cover it. If you only have 3 slashed, they won't.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like that's making them too smart, though, because I never knew that.
Well, just a little additive.
Reminds me.
That's
reminds
very
me-
interesting, though.
Reminds me of the what was the documentary that Michael Moore did about healthcare in America? Sicko.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
the guy that got his finger cut off, he said, "Well, I got 2 of them cut off. I could put on the pinky for a couple of $1,000s, but if I put on the other one, it would cost $10,000. So I just got the one put back on."
Right.
Oof. Jesus.
Not making that up.
I should not be even remotely surprised.
Granted, I don't think Michael Moore is a very good person. I think he's very manipulative.
Sure.
He gives liberalism a bad name.
Ooh.
Yeah, like you can have extremism on both sides.
But be
Oh, yeah.
be rational about it.
yeah.
Just
Oh,
don't try to manipulate facts to make your point.
Right.
It makes you no better than the other side.
Nope.
Right.
Anyways,
Now, for the next scene, we have a cut back and forth between Donald's quote-unquote private night sermon back in Hope and Mike, David, and Eric driving to Rambo's home in Bowie, Arizona. Mike confirms they have the address that matched Rambo's plate number and that he and David plan to trash his house to quote-unquote leave a message. Eric says that Mike slashing his tires was enough, but Mike says that galts aren't meant to be disrespected.
so this is a John Wick moment.
Pretty much, yeah, actually.
Okay.
Good call.
Yeah.
Eric then asks if that's why their grandfather, Art, is dead. and they drive up to the house and break in. Meanwhile, during Donald's sermon, we realize that his listeners aren't his standard Sunday churchgoers, but rather his slowly building army as he discusses his extremist views and plans to, quote-unquote, cleanse the town to restore hope in more ways than one.
Make America great again.
There you go.
There you go.
Meanwhile, as Eric stays in the Hummer, we see Mike and David go through Rambo's house with the two of them taking baseball bats to various items throughout. As the noise progresses, I can't read my own shit, we see Maria wake up startled in bed. She grabs a rifle and heads down. She eventually sees the two of them trashing the house and yells at them that she will shoot if they don't stop. However, Mike manages to distract her, throwing one of the bats at her and knocking her gun out, causing a blast to go off and startling Eric back at the vehicle. She grabs the bat as Mike runs toward her, and she takes a swing at him, hitting him in the leg, but she then runs for the kitchen to grab a knife. She takes a few swings, but Mike manages to grab her arm and forces her own knife into her stomach. Both Mike and David realize the severity of what just happened and run out of the house, but not before seeing that Mike has dropped his wallet amidst the fight. The scene ends, cutting back to Donald Galt one last time as he ends his sermon. We see a tow truck come up to the end of Rambo's driveway as a driver pulls up behind it with Rambo and Gabrielle. Uber, Lyft, whatever. They get out and pay both drivers, though Gabrielle looks concerned, saying that it looks like all the lights are on and the doors open, despite being too late at night for her grandmother to still be awake. They both run up to the house and find Maria bleeding to death in the kitchen. Rambo starts breathing heavily as if having a panic attack akin to the film's beginning, while Gabrielle grabs a gun from earlier and runs out the front door. This snaps Rambo out of it as he runs after her and stops her, saying that they have to act smarter, not harder about the situation. Rambo brings her back to the porch and has her sit in the rocking chair, taking the gun. He goes back into the house and looks for any clues, only to find the wallet that didn't look familiar. He opens it up and sees the familiar face from the bar and the name Michael Galt, address located in Hope, Washington. Rambo's eyes widen as he has a brief flash to his encounter back in 1982, including the moment of indirectly causing Art Galt's death in the helicopter and grabbing his dead body from the rocks. Rambo goes back outside, telling Gabrielle that they need a pack and that they have a long drive ahead. She asks where they're going, and Rambo replies, somewhere I never thought I'd see again. Rambo goes back into the tunnels and starts forging a new knife, of course. The next morning, we see that Rambo has buried Maria next to his father's site, as Gabrielle says a short prayer asking for forgiveness for what she's about to do. They take her car and start a long drive to Hope. We cut to later that night back in Hope as the Hummer holding Mike, Eric, and David strolls into town. David tells Mike to drop them off at the police station. Mike initially tries to stray him away, saying that that's the last place they need to go right now and that they need to get to Donald. David calls him out, saying that he's used to Mike not listening to his brother, but that he needs to listen to him. Mike reluctantly drops David off at the police station and then continues driving to Donald's home. We see Mitch sitting at his desk after hours by himself in the police station as Dave walks up. Mitch looks surprised, with Dave saying, "Hey, Dad." At this point in the film, it's not really been fully established that that's actually his son. Just another associate.
Gotcha.
Mitch realized that something grave has happened for his son to come back to him. During the scene, we cut back and forth between this location and when Mike and Eric finally make it back to their fathers, Donald. Mike tells Don what happened with Maria, but eventually mentions the name Rambo that he saw in the mailbox on the way in. David does likewise when telling Mitch what happened. Both Don and Mitch react to this name, albeit quite differently. Mitch looks like someone walked over his grave, remembering the Battle for Hope of '82,
Right.
when Rambo was last there. Don, however, relishes the moment, hoping that Rambo will indeed come to Hope so he can finally do his father justice. Mitch brings David to Don's, and the five of them are now discussing what their next course of action is. Mitch tries to go the formal protocol route, saying that he will send out warnings to everyone in the town that if Rambo shows up to alert the authorities immediately. Don thinks this is a good idea, but Mitch tries to keep him out of it, knowing he has more personal motives. So it's funny that you mentioned John Wick. This is sort of the moment where... Yeah, the father realizes, oh shit, you just fucked with the wrong guy.
You woke up the boogeyman.
Yeah, Baba Yaga. So, Rambo Yaga. We'll go with that. The morning after, Rambo and Gabrielle have finally made it into Hope. Gabrielle goes over their plan with Rambo again, though we're hearing it for the first time, saying they need to find a below-the-radar motel to rest first and then go to find Mike at the address on his ID. Rambo reminds her that if word has made it into the town that he's there, they'll probably already be on the lookout. Gabrielle suggests signing in somewhere under her name and then go after Mike. They find a nearby motel to crash and sign in under Gabrielle's name, as mentioned. After they go to their room, the woman at the front desk looks back at her phone and sees a town alert which shows the 1982 mugshot of Rambo. She calls the police department with one of the deputies answering and says that she thinks that Rambo guy just came to her motel. He reassures her that they'll take it from there. He then looks to see if Mitch is around, but then makes a call to Don instead, letting him know what's going on. So basically, like, there's people throughout the police station that are more under Donald's thumb than Mitch's.
Right.
Because a lot of them still have more respect for art.
Yeah,
Secret neo-Nazi type.
characters
Exactly.
we established back at the sermon.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So later in the day, Rambo and Gabrielle are in their room as they survey the small armory that they brought with them. Gabrielle quips about how much they brought, but Rambo knows that their target most likely has a lot of protection, and that the ones who shoot their mouths off but can't physically back it up tend to have a lot of others come to their aid. Housekeeping knocks on their door, in which Gabrielle answers and says they don't need anything at the moment, and Gabrielle says that she'll go out for supplies and food and that Rambo should stay there for now. Rambo gives her one of his older knives as a precaution while she's out. As she leaves the room, a car in the distance has a man sitting and watching the motel through binoculars. He radios someone saying that he sees the woman that matches the description of the one who came in with Rambo. Later on, a truck rolls in and several armed and armored men start to run up to the building. A housekeeper comes out of another room in which they grab her and tell her to knock on Rambo's door to lure him out. She knocks on the door, in which Rambo looks confused considering she just came by not too long ago.
Right.
He carefully looks through the eyepiece and sees the housekeeper looking more distressed and occasionally looking out of the corner of her eyes. Rambo knows they've been found. With Rambo not answering, the men blast their way into the room but see no one. As one of the men walks past one of the beds, we see Rambo hiding underneath with his knife. He swipes at one of them, cutting his foot off. I figured I'd keep that moment.
Hell yeah.
I kinda
That's
like
a good
that.
moment. I will
Yeah,
say.
I keep a handful of those moments from the actual film.
I will say there's some pretty good kills. It's just the context of it is just so
yeah.
abhorrent.
There's so many packed together that you can't process them.
Yeah, it's
No.
like sensory overload.
Yeah.
It's like it's too much.
Yeah, let us breathe for a minute.
Violence is good in short spurts.
Right.
Yeah, it's like
this-
that episode of South Park where they just say shit 162 times.
Right.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like-
it's like it loses its effectiveness after
Yeah,
a while.
and that was actually the moral of the episode too. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're numb.
Yeah.
And now it's funny. On that note, I actually saw Logan on FX Movies the other night, and they were cutting out every time they said fuck, but they still said shit. It's like, well, this is how far we've come. Because shit used to be cut out with fuck all the time.
Yeah.
Now it's like,
unlike late night on FX, they do say the word fuck.
oh yeah,
Very very late they allow
Like
it's,
1 in the morning.
It's kind of like HBO or
Oh, yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like once it's really late at
The
night.
kids are asleep.
The kids are asleep.
it's like the FCC loophole where it's like 1 to 5 in the morning. I think.
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
because Comedy Central did like their secret stash. They actually called it
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And I
Do
saw
they still
like
do that?
maybe it's been a few years, but I remember
I
they
don't know.
showed like one of Richard Pryor's shows uncensored. It's like, well,
Nice.
that'll do it. Seriously. Yeah, so we have the foot cut off there, which causes him to drop his gun. Rambo grabs it, knocks the bed up and onto the other attackers, and starts shooting. As the firefight continues and the ammo depletes, he reverts back to the knife. More men start to storm the room from outside as Rambo looks for a way out. One eventually gets a shot on Rambo, grazing him in the process. Meanwhile, Gabrielle returns and sees what's going on. She sees the cart left from the housekeeper, and upon quick thinking, she starts rolling up to the room and starts yelling at the soldiers in Spanish. They yell at her to mind her business, thinking she's another housekeeper, but she suddenly takes the knife out and stabs him with that same knife that Rambo gave her. She looks shocked as she does it, having never killed before. Another armed man notices this and aims his gun at her, and she jumps off the dying gunman she stabbed and latches onto the second would-be shooter, taking him down into an armbar, breaking his arm, and then crushing his jaw with her foot.
Hell yeah.
She
Nice.
takes his gun and starts to fire at the others. A few surviving men, including the one who got a minor hit on Rambo, run off. Eventually, the firefight dies down, and she hears Rambo call for Gabby. After a couple calls in her out-of-body state, she acknowledges him. He asks if she's all right, and she says, relatively speaking, and says she's never killed someone before. Rambo just says, "You were pushed. It gets easier." Somewhat. The 3 surviving shooters make their way to
Gave
Don's
me
home.
a knot in my stomach. I hate that.
What was that?
I said that gave me a knot in my stomach. I hate that.
The 3 surviving shooters make their way to Don's home. They tell him what happened.
Easy as breathing.
It was kind of meant to be like an indirect callback to
Yeah,
that. It's like,
yeah.
well, yeah, you kind of get used to it. It's like, yeah.
Just like saying that to somebody, that's the comforting thing to say because you're John Rambo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like everything's okay. I promise it was self-defense. This isn't your fault. No, it's just like, no, it just gets easier. And it's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the 3 surviving shooters make their way to Don's home. They tell him what happened and how most of the first wave of men are dead, but that they got a shot off of him. Don looks displeased, saying that the firefight was just meant to scare him out, not to actually kill him, that he wants him alive and unharmed. Don, with his bare hands, kills the shooter who tagged Rambo. The two other survivors look startled. Don says that they can kill the girl he's with, but Rambo will only be for him to kill personally. Don says next time use a tranquilizer on Rambo and save the bullets for Gabrielle. Rambo and Gabrielle end up back on the road, driving on the way to their initially planned destination. Gabrielle still looks a bit numb, with a bit of dry blood on her face. Rambo looks over her way, realizing he recognizes that blank stare. She starts to speak, saying that if it truly does get easier, she's afraid of what she could become if she still decides to join the army. Rambo says he can't speak for everyone, but knows that she can still do a lot of good. The purpose of the fight is to try to save others, no matter how perilous it may be, as he thinks back to when he tried to rescue the three travelers at the beginning of the film. We see Mitch in the police station trying to find out what happened at the motel. The deputy who answered the call earlier says he thought he heard something about Rambo being there. Playing dumb, obviously. He asks why no one contacted him immediately, and the deputy acts as if he doesn't know. Mitch calls Don, and Don plays dumb as to the shootout at the motel, saying that they both know he'd like to see Rambo alive for the time being. We cut to Don giving another quote-unquote private sermon to additional soldiers he's recruiting for his fight with Rambo. He says that a morsel of the south of the border plague is aiding a half-breed in trying to kill his son.
I love the fact that it's not just neo-Nazis that are the threat in this movie. It's also like the fucking religious cult. It's like what's everything ruining this country right now? Religious fundamentalism and right-wing extremism.
The comments on this episode are going to be interesting.
Yeah.
He says,
what Incel guy has to say.
He says,
Where does he land politically?
Has he unblocked you yet?
oh, Jesus.
No, I can't see anything. He said.
Wow. But Don says once this trial has passed that he will start to send his growing army along the West Coast to suppress the invasion by any means needed. So he's not even just trying to do this within the town. He's actually, his bigger aspirations are like spread this, like to go down south.
He's franchising.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, pretty much. So Don has a meeting with Eric, Mike, and Dave. Mike thanks his father for his aid but gets slapped, with Don telling him that he and his younger brother are to blame for the disruption of his initial plans and has no qualms using Mike as bait. Rambo and Gabrielle eventually make it to Mike's house, which definitely has the look of someone whose father has connections. Rambo initially thinks Gabrielle should wait in the car, considering she's still shaken from earlier, but she reassures him that she needs to do this with him and for her grandmother. Both of them take a gun and approach the house, but we see a sniper begin to take aim at Rambo, but as the red sight suddenly appears on his back, Gabrielle jumps to knock him over, seeing a large tranquilizer dart suddenly hit the ground nearby. Lights suddenly switch on around the field in front of the house, and other armed and armored men suddenly come from out of the surrounding trees and start firing. Both Rambo and Gabrielle start shooting back. The two run closer to the house, hiding behind columns, and Rambo slowly realizes that while they're trying to fire tranquilizers at him, that they're firing live ammo at her. Rambo quickly tells Gabrielle a plan that he'll cover her while she runs for the woods, as he realizes they want him alive. He manages to get her out of there, but gets hit with a dart in the leg. The firing stops as Don suddenly appears from behind his men, with Mike, Dave, and Eric behind. Rambo sees Mike and starts to charge, but Don stops him fast. The two start to have a strictly hand-to-hand fight, but as a tranquilizer slowly takes effect, Don soon overpowers him. He tells Rambo this is just a warm-up round and that the main event will be soon enough, as Rambo soon passes out. Mitch soon shows up as well and asks Don what's going on. Don tells Mitch that Rambo was coming for his son Mike, but Mitch reprimands Don for basically having a small army disrupt his town and leave several men dead at a motel because of it. Don then threatens Mitch that he has more sway with the cops than Mitch ever will, but will let him feel like he's in control for now by taking Rambo into custody. Now, overnight, Gabrielle finds herself in the woods, cold and alone. She has a knife and a gun with one bullet left, as well as a phone down to its last 15% and minimal signal. She uses the light on her phone to help her see as she removes the gunpowder from one bullet to aid in starting a fire. After a few moments, she's able to start a fire using the gunpowder sticks and the knife and rests for a moment. I actually did look this up online. It's like, can you dismantle a bullet, use the gunpowder to help start a fire? It's like, okay, so I'm not just talking out of my ass here.
No, it's true. There was a movie called The Edge with Anthony Hopkins and Mark Wahlberg. They take
I remember that movie.
They take ammunition and they basically empty the gunpowder to make a fire.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
You can season meat with gunpowder, which they did do. You can because it has
Sweet
salt.
Jesus.
It has salt in it.
Yep.
Wow.
As a means of preserving meat.
I didn't
It makes
know
it
that.
taste like crap, but you can preserve meat using that.
Nice. Hey, survivalist.
Yeah.
But so she rests for a moment and then she remembers something and pulls her phone back out and she sees a photo she took of Eric's phone number because, he gave her the phone number. It's like, hey, if you're ever in town.
Sure.
She tries to call, but the signal still isn't strong enough, so she soon passes out from exhaustion. The next morning, Rambo awakens in a jail cell. He soon comes face to face with Mitch. Rambo realizes he looks familiar, but Mitch is well aware of who he is. Mitch says he thought he would never see him come into hope again, while Rambo extends that the feeling is mutual. Mitch explains that he knows what's happened and that if he can escort Rambo out of town, he will see that charges are pressed towards Mike Galt, but knows that his career could also be in jeopardy due to Don Galt's influence. Rambo tells Mitch that he remembers Art Galt and how it was both his and Tiesel's actions that pushed him to where his life had gone, and that he can tell that the Galt descendants weren't exactly much better. Mitch tells Rambo that Eric shows more promise and that he's been more of a son to him than Dave has. Rambo acknowledges this, saying that Gabrielle seemed to notice that Eric wasn't too bad either. On this note, he asks Mitch where Gabrielle was, and Mitch says that they're trying to find her. Rambo warns him that he probably can't trust all of his men if Don can sway any of them, and that they'll most likely kill her if they find her. Mitch tells Rambo that he's not entirely on his side, but he's not on Don's either, and that he will personally do what he can to find Gabrielle before Don and his men do.
Is he hanging from the ceiling, like tied up, like this kind of thing?
You know, part of me was thinking that,
like in Judge Dredd, he's like, "Does that come with a fork, handsome?"
and you're going to be toast. No, you're toast, because these guys are cannibals. Oh, Judge Dredd, I am the law.
We'll add that to the chopping block. I'll take that one.
I'd be intrigued.
Alex Garland did the work for us, dude. Like,
you know what? Yeah, you're right. We can't even because
I mean, if you do want to like keep that storyline, though.
oh yeah.
Well, it's like 5 separate short stories from the
Okay.
Judge Dredd comics slammed into one. I
Right.
guess you can't really fix it because it's like it's too much.
I
You'd have to just focus on one or the other.
I don't think I knew
Right.
until this past week that apparently the seldom seen Judge Dredd arcade game, there's background characters that are walking these little alien pets, and you know what they are?
What?
Goro. I think the game was made by Midway.
Yeah, it
So
was.
and it's all digitized characters, and just for shits and giggles, you have a mini Goro on a chain.
Reusing
I
assets.
started laughing my ass
That's
off.
hilarious.
That's not even. That's just like a shout out. That shit's
Right.
on purpose. Like they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, in the Dredd universe, there are mutants.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There's lots of
It's
mutants.
perfect. I love
They
it.
even have it in like they kind of have it in the 2012 film. It's like there's mutants. Like the only one we see is Anderson is psychic.
right.
Like, but there's people like really fucked up faces.
Oh,
and
yeah.
shit. Like there's mutants
So
everywhere.
more like Total Recall.
Much more like Total
There you
Recall.
go.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny that, I remember when the first picture of him came out, I thought his helmet looked too big. Then I went back to the original Stallone Judge Dredd. I was like, no, his was just too small.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. It's
I am
meant-
the law. I can't
it's-
feel my brain.
It's meant to be over the top.
Right.
Yeah.
It's meant
Yeah.
to be over the top.
It felt more like a sequel to Demolition Man than anything else.
I'm not gonna
Same
lie.
fucking cast.
I'm not gonna lie. 12-year-old Seth with the clone reveal of that's why the other guy can use his gun
Yeah.
blew my mind.
But it is-
Armand Asante? Sorry, I'm just thinking about the Santa Claus now.
I was thinking. It is worth noting that in the storyline of the comics, the whole thing of him being a clone, that's common knowledge.
Oh,
It's,
really?
it's not a secret.
Well then.
Everybody knows because they had to clone the judges because they don't have enough people. There you
So,
go.
meanwhile, hey, we're already at the end of page 6 of 9, so we're moving along quick. And I think 9 is like one word, I think, so we're good.
Fuck.
So, so this is pretty much the beginning of Act 3 at this point, anyway. Gabrielle wakes up in the forest, fire now out, and she checks her phone, which is now at 7%. She begins to travel through the woods, hoping she gets a signal. She soon hears growling, looking up to see a mountain lion. She pulls her knife out, standing her ground, waiting to see if it'll make a move. She maintains intense eye contact, unblinking, and eventually it backs down and wanders off. She looks back at her phone, down to 5%, but sees a slight increase in signal. She quickly calls Eric while she has both the signal and battery power. We see Eric in an apartment answering his phone, not recognizing the number, but Gabriella says who it is, and Eric's face shows both relief and panic. He tells her that Rambo's in jail and Mitch and Don were looking for her. He tells her the same thing that Mitch told Rambo, that they need to get Mitch to find her before Don. Gabrielle gives him her rough coordinates, saying she's going to try to remain within a 1-mile radius, but won't be able to maintain much contact for much longer. Sure enough, her phone cuts off shortly after this, with the battery having died. Eric quickly calls Mitch and tells him what's going on. Mitch looks paranoid around the police station and quietly tells him to start heading for Gabrielle, and he'll try to find them at their coordinates within the hour. We cut to Don's office, in which Mike comes in saying he was able to get into Eric's phone account, and he said he remembered seeing Eric give her his number and got a hunch seeing a text from an Arizona area code showing nothing but GPS coordinates. Don tells Mike to call Dave to get to the office. Mike does indeed follow up, calling Dave, who is on the road, telling him to come in, yet he's looking slightly conflicted. He ends up getting a call on the other line. It's his father, Mitch. Mitch tells Dave what's going on, but also admits that their relationship hasn't been the best. Mitch warns him that while Dave can take whatever path he wants, if he follows Don, there's no positive outcome. Mitch admits that he can't trust everyone in the police department, but since Dave has a foot in each door, between being the sheriff's son and being so close with Don that he could pretty much do anything in the police station and not set off the other officers. Mitch says he's going to meet Eric at Gabrielle's approximate coordinates and for Dave to get Rambo out of the jail. Dave says if he lets Rambo out, he's going to come for Mike, but Mitch tells him that his primary concern will be Gabrielle and that he'll try to get him out of town or at least give Mike enough warning to escape. Dave makes it to the station and tells one of the deputies that he needs to bring Rambo to Don. The deputy looks confused. I'm probably just going to make it all the same deputy. The one who's, like, very sketchy, like, is just, like, the Weasley middle name for Don.
Yeah, it's kind of more important.
Exactly.
Stuff,
yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, no, I hope you, like, kind of get your comeuppance.
What's the name of the actor that plays Rorschach in the Watchmen movie?
Jackie Earle Haley.
There you go.
There you go.
That's your guy.
There you go. There you go.
Who's the guy from Early Edition?
Kyle Chandler in the best show of all time.
He did it before I did.
Dude,
There you go.
Kyle Chandler cannot play a racist. He's too soft.
It's too soft. There you go. But yeah, so
your face is too doughy.
Now listen, I don't like them blacks. Just he can't say it. He can't do it.
like, I hope nobody comes into this episode out of context. Like, oh God, we found a hot take.
Jesus Christ.
We're gonna cancel this show.
I just listened to thinking about the Blood Dates episode sessions.
Oh God! Like, apparently, everyone in the Philippines is racist. Pew, burp, burp. Oh, Blood Debts. You know, with all the movies getting restored on Blu-ray, fucking White Fire.
Oh
why can't we
my
get Blood Debts on
God.
Bluray?
Why?
No, Ginty.
We don't need a Ginty movie on Blu-ray.
You can't say that, Gint. I mean, we've already got Exterminator, so I think Exterminator 2 popped up somewhere too. But yeah, it's like you can't say that, Ginty. Thank you, Jack.
Jesus.
But yeah, so Dave makes it to the station and tells one of the deputies, like I said, the same one, that he needs to bring Rambo to Don. The deputy looks confused, saying he didn't hear anything about it. However, he gets him to Rambo's cell, but before Dave can get Rambo out, the deputy pulls his gun on him. However, distracted, Rambo pulls the deputy into the bars of the cell, knocking him out. Dave unlocks the cell, grabs the deputy's handcuffs, and warns Rambo that it looks like he needs to be transported and that he'll explain on the way. They get out of the station, but another officer noticed the knocked-out deputy and sounds an alarm, causing them to rush off.
I'm looking for a transporter.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm listening.
Sudden Jason Statham cameo. It's like, oh God, it's the Expendables universe.
Hey, he cameoed in the movie Collateral.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's meant to be a backdoor sequel to The Transporter. I guess Michael Mann likes the Transporter movies.
I mean, I would much prefer
I
the
love-
Transporter movies to be shot like Collateral.
I would prefer that too. Yeah, I would love to see like just a random character from some other movie just show up as like a cameo in some other movie.
Oh yeah.
I know they did that on The Wire. Richard Belzer shows up as a character. His character from Law and Order
Right.
shows up as a cameo in an episode of The Wire.
Oh, I love that shit.
Just like a random thing. It's like, oh, we love it, but it's all one universe.
Collateral. These two men have one thing in common: Katie Holmes.
Damn.
Damn, bro.
I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Anyway,
That's
Continue.
That's a great movie example of someone going from non-violence to violence across, because the middle point of that movie is Jamie Foxx like switching into, yeah, I'm about to fuck some shit up.
And even then, he doesn't actually really.
No.
When he's shooting at Tom Cruise, his eyes are closed.
Oh yeah,
So he's not really committing to violence.
it's cute.
It's cute.
it's a little more realistic.
Yeah,
It's a metaphor for facing the future, but you don't know what's coming.
exactly.
There you go. He's on a train moving forward, but his eyes are closed. He doesn't know what's coming at him.
It me.
See? There you go.
Big-
That's how you do metaphors in
Big
movies.
moo. Big mood.
So the metaphor in Last Blood is the tunnels underneath of his house represent.
His twisted inner psyche.
PTSD.
Oh, I was going to say how your bowels just start to break down when you're old. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
I read into things too much, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah, they get to Dave's truck and take off, and Dave sees that Don is calling again, but he ignores the call. Rambo asks why he's helping, but Dave says it's complicated, and that the short version is that he's tired of being a lackey for Don and realizes he's been going down the wrong road for years and is trying to course correct with his father. Rambo warns Dave that he won't let Mike get away, while Dave says that's out of his hands and whatever will happen will happen. We cut back to Don's office, where he angrily throws his phone due to Dave ignoring his calls. Mike is standing awkwardly in the office, with Don telling him to make the call for a helicopter to survey the coordinates, and that he'll be out there himself soon. We see Gabrielle in the woods as she heard rustling in the trees and bushes, only for Eric to emerge. They're relieved to find each other, with Eric quipping that he didn't think she'd be in town anytime soon, but that they need to get her back out. She says she can't leave without her uncle, but soon a helicopter appears overhead and calls out via loudspeaker for them. Both Gabrielle and Eric raise their hands in the air, but then they suddenly see a sniper trying to take aim at Gabrielle, causing them to take off. Eventually, we see more of Don's men charging through the forest, trying to find Gabrielle and Eric. Mitch eventually makes his way out there as well, in addition to Dave and Rambo. Gabrielle tells Eric to lay low, while she has to stealthily attack the men with her knife. Others try to take aim at her, but Rambo starts to get closer to the gunfire until he too starts attacking the men with his own blade, going into a berserker attack. The scene jumps back and forth with the two of them attacking the shooters. Eventually, the shooters in the area are taken out, but the helicopter sniper eventually forces the four of them out into an open area near rocks and a creek near the woods. They eventually start hearing clapping. They see Don and Mike on the other side. Don says he's disappointed in Eric, but expected it, but is more surprised at Dave's actions. Mike takes a gun out and shoots Dave in the shoulder, knocking him down onto the rocks. Don says that the entire ordeal has interrupted his West Coast plans and that he hopes he can wrap everything up soon. That said, he asks Mike to shoot Gabrielle. Eric, however, dives to knock her down and gets hit in the arm himself. Eric tells her to run, and Mike takes off after her in the woods. Meanwhile, Rambo charges for Don, but Don counters him by throwing Rambo with his own momentum. A difficult battle between the two of them ensues. Mike is hunting once again for Gabrielle, but she eventually manages a sneak attack, disarming him. The two of them battle while intercutting with a fight between Rambo and Don. Mitch finally makes his way to the woods and sees the fight between Gabrielle and Mike, shouting for them to freeze, with his gun drawn. Mike quickly draws a knife to throw at Mitch, which misses, but Gabrielle uses the opportunity to attack and stabs Mike himself. We cut back to the fight between Rambo and Don, both men looking to be taking damage. Suddenly we hear a gunshot, and the sniper from the helicopter falls out, giving both Rambo and Don a shock. But they then hear a second body hit the rocks, and Don sees Mike's dead body with a knife still in it. Don stumbles towards his son's dead body as Rambo slowly approaches to attack while he's distracted. Don, out of desperation, pulls the knife out of Mike's body and stabs Rambo with it. Rambo pulls Don closer and spins around to slam Don's body onto the rocks around them. Rambo starts pounding Don's head into the rocks until the back of his skull becomes a pulp. He then holds his dead, bloody body over the rocks, once again flashing back to when Don's father, Art, was dead. Rambo, bleeding out, falls over himself, with Gabrielle running to him and Mitch running to Dave and Eric. Mitch calls for a rescue service to appear, but is afraid they won't make it in time. Rambo realizes that he won't survive this time and tells Gabrielle that she has to do what she feels is right in her life, and that she was the one thing that resembled a heart and soul that he had been lacking in the rest of his life. As long as she lives on, part of him will as well. Rambo seems to give a smile for the first time in all the films as he slowly passes away, with Gabrielle beside herself in tears. We fade to a later time as we finally see a grave with Rambo's name on it next to his parents' graves. Gabrielle leaves her knife at his grave and says a prayer before she leaves. For the last scene, Gabrielle looks at the letter from the army and then outside at one of the horses on her farm. She decides to take it for a ride and thinks to herself that she still has time to figure out her life, wanting to make sure that it's one worth living for herself and those around her, and one that would make her uncle proud. She follows up by thinking in voiceover, someone used to say, live for nothing or die for something. But for him, I think he wanted me to live for everything. And then cue, It's a Long Road from the original First Blood.
Damn.
And scene.
Damn.
There we go. So, yeah, I rushed a little towards the end because, like, I just want to go to bed. But it's like, this is still kind of what I wanted. It still works. And, you know, we still get that full circle, I think, much more than
Yeah.
Last Blood.
Right.
Where you end should be where you began.
Yeah.
Right.
So and it kind of makes that moment where he's just staring at, you know, Art's dead body in the first film. It's almost like, why do I feel like this will be some form of foreshadowing almost 40 years later?
Yeah.
So it kind of like gives that even more impact retrospectively or
Sure.
retroactively, I
Sure.
should say. So yeah, there you go. You got a movie.
That's a movie.
I think as I'm imagining in my head, and like the beauty of the show is we get to hypothetically have imagination movies in our head that are perfect because you know, how do you tear that apart?
Yeah, and Photoshop helps too. And it's like, hey, we got a post for a movie that doesn't exist.
Right.
I meant to give Rambo the longer hair after that. It's like, oh, Gabrielle's head kind of covers it though. It still works.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I brought it up earlier. Something that really grabbed me when I first watched the first movie versus all the subsequent movies, except for probably Rambo 4.
Yeah.
Him breaking down in the police station,
Yeah.
literally crying.
Yeah.
Like that is not something you see in your action hero leads.
Nope.
Often, and that I think
That's what makes them more relatable.
right.
Yeah.
They actually act like people.
Right. He's human.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, Stallone can pull off those moments. He's just not giving them a lot.
Exactly.
Like, this is why, he got nominated for Creed. I mean, you see those quiet moments. Like, when he's diagnosed with cancer, it's like he goes immediately to acceptance. Like, you hear it in his voice.
That scene in the locker room. Fuck.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
Damn, that's what that's
That was
like,
probably
that's the
for your
nomination.
Yeah, that was probably the for your consideration moment when he got nominated, because I think he won Golden Globe but then lost
he
the
lost
Academy Award.
He lost the
Right.
Academy Award.
I can't remember to who, but I feel like the Oscars were just like, yeah, no, we don't like Stallone.
If you
So-
can't remember, that means it probably wasn't that good.
Yeah,
Right.
it was just done because they didn't want to give it to Stallone.
Sure.
Remember
I'm
that
calling
movie,
it.
The Artist? Nobody does.
I do. I feel like that one gets shit on a lot. I had fun with that movie. God damn it! It didn't necessarily need to be Best Picture, but I still had fun with it. But then I'm like nostalgic for like those kinds of movies. Like,
Yeah.
movies about movies.
Right.
So, and like that's also why people started to shit on like, well, no, I think they were saying like you should have picked Hugo instead of The Artist. It's like I liked both.
Right.
Fuck y'all. I like both movies.
Yeah, that makes it difficult.
Yeah.
So with the final the final act, I really like.
Are we thinking like for fighting these guys? Is he going to be like not going to be like he just randomly gets a bow and arrow in this end of Last Blood? Like, what are we going to have like nostalgia? Like, hey, remember this? He's really good with a bow and arrow. Like, are we going to have that?
It's funny. It's like
Honestly, I just think you don't even need it.
yeah, because I'm trying to remember.
Like, what weapons would he be really be using?
Did he use one in the first one?
No,
Yeah. So there you go.
because there was never any place that he could get one.
No, like it wasn't really until the second one.
Second one,
Yeah.
and for some reason he has it in the third one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just randomly, you're using a bow and arrow in the desert. Like,
Yeah, all
it's
the
not a great place to use it.
exploding tip arrows.
Yeah, which
Right.
makes no sense.
Which, by the way, I thought that made a comeback when they showed the sizzle reel for the fourth one.
Yeah.
But when you see the film, it's like, oh no, the one guy gets hit with the arrow and then
Falls on a
lands on a
landmine.
landmine.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's what it was. Like it wasn't a delayed explosive. It was just like,
Right.
oh, bing, boom. So
Yeah, I guess I'm looking for a emotional catharsis for him in that final act.
Yeah.
It's not like
It's not a physical climax, but it's an emotional climax.
yeah.
yeah. I want it. I want like him recognizing, and maybe there's too much nuance to this where
Or maybe like the end of the movie, like she bulldozes in the cave that he lives in. Just wrecks it. Like we don't need this anymore.
Yeah,
just, like,
he
just spare
doesn't
the
need
whole
this
thing.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's your ending. It's
like
your ending.
in
She
my
finishes off his story.
in my
Yeah,
he- in
there you
my
go.
head I'm seeing
Like I said, the third act, I admit, I got like down to the wire and was kind of rushed.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, is this guy what I wanted?
but all the other stuff's so good that like it's not
Yeah.
you're not lacking. I in my head I'm seeing Don as being kind of split where he sees Rambo as an American hero,
Yeah.
like to be worshipped, but also he killed his dad.
Yeah.
It's like
I feel like if I would like do the dialogue, it's like,
Yeah, I can see why you killed my daddy. Because I feel like you're just too much of a American hero for him. Let's see if you can prove that, pansy ass.
right, exactly.
And that's the bottom line.
and then the split in Rambo going literally like the last 4 movies have been me protecting people,
yeah.
and while they have like the most ridiculous, terrible ideas about humanity, I am killing Americans while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
This kind of fucking sucks that we're here now.
Yeah.
You know what I
The
mean?
enemy
Like
is no longer abroad. The war came home.
exactly.
Once
Exactly.
again, full circle. That's why I wanted to find a reason to like bring it back there. Like it is
Right.
admittedly coincidental. It's like, oh, hey, they just happen to have to go through this town for this thing to happen.
Right.
But it's like, 38 years. That's enough time for a
It's
coincidence to
that's,
kick in.
That's what it's what I like to refer to, and I've said this before. It's a gimme moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Give me this one thing, I can make the story work.
Exactly.
Because of that, it's the chain reaction that sets off the rest of the film.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what the first film is. Like he just randomly is wandering through the town. They tell him to leave.
Yeah.
And he just won't leave.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the gimme moment. Give me this thing, I can make it work.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right, exactly.
And hope does not exist. It is somewhere in Canada.
Yeah, because
Like, I
it
think
was
it was-
cheaper.
Was it British Columbia or
I think it's British Columbia.
Yeah. So
Apparently,
like,
it was fucking freezing when they were filming that.
it looks it. It
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because I think it was like what, December '81. I think when they were
Yeah, I
filming.
think so.
Something insane. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I'm seeing in my head that I want to be brought out is his freak out moments. you set those up throughout the film, and they're
Yeah.
very emotional. If when he kills Dawn, that is like basically outside of his control. Like he's in a different space right now.
Yeah.
And maybe part of it comes from him knowing that he's about to die from his wounds, and maybe part of it comes from like, I need to like get this toxic shit out of me real quick.
Yeah.
Like, just that whole, I don't want him to like that he's doing it.
No. It is like almost autopilot.
Exactly.
No tearing out people's hearts.
Right,
Yeah, no.
right.
None of that
This
shit.
is what you made me feel.
This is what this is
It's-
how it
it's-
feels.
The dialogue in that movie so goddamn basic
Yeah, like,
kindergarten shit.
When he said when he's like threatening
It's
him
like a
on
first draft.
Yeah.
It is. It's like when he's threatening him with that on the walkie-talkie. It's like, all right, well, it would just
You're literally describing the things that are happening.
like if he had just said, "This is what it felt like," it would have been like, "What does he mean?" Oh, that's what he meant. But like you just said, like 2 minutes ago, if that, I was like,
Right.
"I'm gonna rip your heart out." I was like, "Oh, now you're
it's
just
like
being literal."
it's like where a punchline or a one-liner should go.
Yeah.
But they didn't have anything clever to say.
It's like you're explaining the joke and then giving the punchline and then saying the punchline.
It's like it reminds me of what was it?
It's like we're done with the pitch. We're just back to shitting on the real
It
movie.
reminds me of what was it, in Eraser, where all the guys are coming into the warehouse to kill Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's just like, they missed. I'll be right out. Like terrible movie, but I do
Right.
like some of the.
But Arnold could
one-liners
always
in
get
it.
away with that.
Yeah,
Nobody does one-liners anymore.
because it's considered campy and goofy and stupid.
But it could be good.
Yeah, if done right.
If done right with the
Yeah.
right actor, you can do it.
Yeah, not possible.
Who has the best of this like 80s
Of the 80s?
Schwarzenegger, Stallone?
Oh,
that-
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Definitely Schwarzenegger. David Schwarzenegger.
As much as we hate Batman and Robin, I mean, if you just like watch
Yeah.
the video of his one-liners from that movie. Let's kill the dinosaurs. The Ice Age.
Right.
Get it because it's cold.
Everybody, chill.
Chill. I hate,
Schumacher knew what he was
I
doing.
hate when they interrupt
Sure he
the
did.
movie.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, and then he apologized
And
years
got on
later.
a megaphone and said, "Hey, remember everybody, it's a cartoon."
You also got to think the 90s animated Batman was airing at the time they were
And
filming
that
that.
fucking show is so dark.
Yeah, and that's
Jesus Christ!
Did you know it was animated on black paper?
I'm not
Yes, so
surprised.
they could get the color timing right, the color print correctly. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
That's why it has that kind of like airbrush look to it.
Yeah.
like, it's, oh god,
because
so good.
all the white is like added instead of the white
Yeah.
being the background.
That way, the
Interesting.
white really stands out against
Yep.
the black.
Yep.
Smart.
I'd love that. That's
So good.
Perfect.
Yeah,
The best version of BVS we ever got was the animated Batman vs Superman.
yeah. Well, until you do my pitch, pretty good.
Well, true. Yeah, I mean the conceit of that animated film too is Lex Luthor and the Joker team up at the end, and
Which
it's
is
like,
stupid.
yeah, that wouldn't happen. But
Yeah, not so good.
it's a cartoon.
Jesus. But
So, Lex, you totally need my help. Why?
Well, no, it didn't. But
No,
yeah,
I'm
like,
good.
Do we even need a sixth Rambo film?
Nope.
It's gonna happen. It's like
Like
this
I
movie
said-
made money.
Like I
it
said,
made a fuck ton of
like
money.
I said, I wouldn't hate a prequel that basically shows what Rambo was like before he became a soldier and like
or
seeing
during
that
Vietnam,
change.
showing
Yeah,
him time
like
in,
the whole transition.
Yeah.
and then leading up to him like trying to find his
yeah,
what he
like,
thought was one surviving friend.
like there are like Punisher stories that take place during Vietnam. There are like, entire
you go.
stories that take place during his first tour. Like you could show that, like show him
Now-
on his first tour in Vietnam. You could do that.
That being said, since we've pretty much got our cast for the most part with this, I mean, like I think like Mike, Eric, and Dave, I have not cast. They're just younger characters.
Sure.
They're
But-
whatever.
Joel Kinnaman.
Jai Kinnaman.
There we go.
Jai Kinnaman Bull.
Jesus.
we have factored Toby Kebbell into our
Oh
list.
no!
Jai Kinnaman Bull.
Yep.
He had such.
Dude, we had to suffer through Bloodshot. You didn't have
he
to.
had such potential. I don't know what happened. Now he's just
Psycho killer.
yeah.
Kiss, kiss.
Yeah, but that being said, if there were
One shot. That whole thing was one take. They were just like, all right, fuck it, just do it.
Yeah, it's the only shot actually in that movie that is not fucking shaking.
Yeah.
There is
anyway,
no fucking steady camera in that movie.
Jesse, careful. We're going to have to edit this part out.
We will do
So-
our Bloodshot episode.
Yes,
later
the
in
proper
month.
one. Now that being said, if there were a Rambo prequel,
Who would you cast?
who would play Rambo?
Ooh.
So okay, I wanna kneecap this real quick because if we're getting a Rambo prequel based off of Last Blood, that's ugly. I don't want it.
No.
The tone that this movie set
No,
is.
no.
I say no. No, thank you.
Maybe-
I don't need to go to Vietnam and
No,
see that
we,
shit.
We just need a prequel to First Blood.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe
That
the tone
story.
of maybe the tone of the fourth one, not necessarily the gore, but the tone.
Sure.
But yeah, leading into First Blood.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. That's more acceptable.
I mean,
Yeah.
look at a movie like We Were Soldiers, the Mel Gibson film. Like,
Oh,
we were,
yeah.
like that right there, where they're trying to defend. That they're in one encampment. Like
Yeah.
they're being constantly surrounded by the NVA.
Right.
That's like your story of how Rambo starts to become traumatized to war. Like, but who do you get to play?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're. To me, I would run away from casting to look like
Yeah.
Stallone.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's young. It's like it's okay
Right.
to have him not look exactly like him.
Who's,
Just cast for acting?
Whiplash, the kid from Whiplash.
Oh,
Miles Teller.
Miles
Teller.
Teller. Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen the shots of him in Top Gun?
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah,
That-
he does.
that-
Like,
that's
yeah,
fair.
give him long hair.
That's
He's
fair.
got that wiry,
He has a
early
must-
Stallone.
He has a mustache, and in the flashbacks of First Blood, he has a mustache.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So there you go.
And that's an actor that could like bring depth to the role.
And he's
Yeah.
he's a fine actor. He
Oh,
has
yeah,
he has
absolutely.
a very punchable face, but he's a fine actor.
Oh, what's that rom-com he was in? The Next Day or the Second Date, where like they take an agreement.
I am not
to-
a Miles Teller. I don't follow his filmography.
but it-
I know someone who
I've
does.
seen Whiplash and Fan Four Stick. Okay, I know him from the good and the bad.
So the plot of the movie, it's him and Creed, the new Creed.
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan,
Yeah.
and then some chubby guy. They agree not to have girlfriends, and then they all start hooking up with people that they start dating in secret. It's a terrible movie. That was my exposure to Miles Teller initially, and why I avoided him for a long time.
Gotcha.
Wow.
I'm a fan now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that movie was bullshit. Director for your version.
I mean, if we want to be blatantly obvious, and
James Mangold.
yeah, that's
I knew exactly
the
where you were
obvious
going.
one.
It's very Logan what you made.
that's the obvious one. However, I know I was going to forget this director's name too. Let me see if I can find the film again. So, has anyone seen the film Hell or High Water?
Yes, I have. It's very good.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
David Mackenzie.
There you go.
So-
Not a bad choice. I
Yeah,
like Hell
so
or High Water.
I mean, if it's kind of in that tone, that also works for me. So
Yeah.
if you can't get Mangold, go that route and just like, hey, remember what you did for Hell or High Water? Do that.
yeah.
If I could suggest
That film is appropriately like brown and gray.
Oh, yeah.
Appropriately.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
unlike this, where it's just like, Rambo fucking
Right.
Last Blood. It's like just ugly because
It's like we have to make Bulgaria look like Arizona.
make it gray and dusty. It's like
Make Spain look like Mexico.
if I threw a hat in to the ring, it would probably be Jeremy Saulnier because of Green Room. This
Still
is
need to see,
this
but
is
I've
kind
heard-
of Green Room, right? Nazis in the Northwest.
There you go.
yeah, there you go.
I should probably find if I can watch that.
It's really good.
So I've heard.
It's on
So good.
Netflix, I think, right now.
Oh, okay.
Netflix. I think all of his shit's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Blue Ruin, Murder Party, Green Room.
Blue Room was one of my favorite movies the year it came out.
Hold the Dark.
Blue
Hold
Ruin,
the
Green
Dark is
Room,
okay.
Yellow Snow.
Hold the Dark is okay.
Hold
I don't
the,
love it, but it's
Hold
okay.
the Dark needed a narrator.
Yeah, it's a little hard to follow. It's a little messy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If especially because you have what's his face from
Macon Blair.
Westworld guy.
Jeffrey Wright.
There you go, Jeffrey Wright.
Oh, yeah.
Him as a narrator, hell yeah, dude. I'd listen to that man talk all night.
He's got that voice.
He really does.
He's got that very
He's
sly
the best
voice.
part of source code. Oh, I'm sorry, the only good part of source code.
When you meet him in Casino Royale, he just
There,
sounds very
that's.
smooth.
Let's add that to the chopping block source
I
code.
think that's on there. Because
That movie is such bullshit.
that might be a crossover with the podcast "Your Gyllenhaal That I Want,"
Yeah, there you go.
where they're going back through both
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal siblings.
Oh, God.
Oh, there we go. That makes more sense.
There you go.
Yeah. They're having a good time on that.
Yeah.
Jeremy Saulnier, I'd love to see that. Tonally, do you have a cinematographer in mind? Like, do you want it to look like Rambo 4, or do you want like a newer kind of look, or do you want to go more 70s, 80s looking?
I mean,
If
if
you
we
go more
went,
70s and stuff, I'd say like Dean Cundy would be good.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like The Thing and John Carpenter's filmography.
Yeah.
Very appropriate.
true,
there.
very true.
He's still alive. Still
Well,
makes movies.
there you go.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm very okay with that. I mean, let's go all in. Like, we really want that, full circle vibe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shoot it
So-
on actual film too.
Right.
Not,
absolutely.
not digital.
Absolutely.
This must
Absolutely.
be shot on film.
You have pitched nothing that could not be done in camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, no CGI, no fake.
No need.
None of
No.
it. None of that crap. Maybe like extending like background, maybe a little green screen.
Oh, yeah.
here and there
The-
for like plate shots. So that's about it.
Yeah,
The-
where
the-
it's not even green. They just like add onto the
Right.
footage and then just like rotoscope around it.
The David Fincher school of CGI. That's
There
like
you go.
it just makes everything better.
Actually, I'm not gonna lie. Like we shit on like knife stabbings in the Expendables films. There is some CG in those movies I don't even realize. So I saw like a featurette.
Oh, sure.
Like there was a scene where they were like in a plantation or something where they were like growing. I don't know. I was like, oh, the drugs aren't grown. Whatever Eric Roberts was rambling about, I can't remember. But they showed like a before and after where they did like expand the background and the field. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize
It helps
that.
a ton. It
Yeah,
helps a
like
ton.
when you have CGs that's not moving a lot, that's more like atmospheric. It's not so bad.
100%.
Yeah, like so apparently they can do that, but like just stop throwing knives and stabbing people in these movies.
That
like
shot of Eric Roberts getting stabbed in the back in the first Expendables movie with the
it's
knife.
like it looks
That
so
is-
shiny.
it
It's
looks
weird.
It looks like the sword from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It looks,
Yeah.
it looks so bad. And
You're
they
not
kinda-
wrong.
They like digitally extend his chest to make it look like the shirt is pressed outwards.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't just get a fake knife and just like glue it to his chest. Like guys, I
Too
know
hard.
you're on a tight budget.
Too hard.
The documentary about the making of that film is better than the film.
Yeah, that thing's crazy.
What was it called? Was it called Inferno?
I think so.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just
Yeah, both the fourth Rambo and the first Expendables had like a
I love how
feature documentary.
he was going to the doctor so many times because he kept injuring himself. And
Yeah.
eventually, the doctor knew him he knew the doctor by name. By the time they kept going back, like for the fifth time,
Sure.
It's like, by
hey
the way-
doc, I'm back again.
like, by the way, your neck is broken. What?
Ah? Did he like break like his hand and his feet?
Probably.
Or something? Like, just like oh,
Like
God.
I don't know if they 100% confirm, but I'm fairly certain the moment that the fracture, what have you, was caused in the neck was that moment where Steve Austin does like body slam
Oh yeah,
Stallone into the rocks. You see like that whiplash. I'm like, Jesus.
And
like that's normally a stunt double moment, so you don't bring your and the fact that they thought that they were gonna have to like bring everything to a halt so he could heal, that's why they have stunt doubles. It's not a macho bullshit thing, like I can do my own stunts. No, it's an insurance issue.
Yeah.
Because the film has
if
to
your
shut
actor
down.
dies in the middle of production,
And if
you
you're
don't have a
also the
movie.
director. He was directing and starring in this movie. That's why you don't do that.
Yeah, it's like I can understand like if you want to have stuff in camera, but you need to do it safely. The problem is with action films like that, the guy's pushing 60.
Right.
Like
Pushing
and-
60.
Yeah, he was
and like
over
I've-
60 at
and-
that point,
And
I
like
think.
I've said, like once an actor reaches a certain age, they're past their prime.
Right.
They physically cannot do it anymore.
I think he was 63 when they filmed.
And
God, you
Yeah, the
can't
first one,
Steve,
yeah.
do it
Steve
anymore.
Austin's
like, look,
a
he's-
lot of man too. Like,
Yeah.
like-
And
Oh,
look,
yeah.
I get it. You're in shape. You want to show off, but like, dude, like movies like this, like they even go through it in Rocky Balboa. Like you have arthritis. There's
Yep.
calcium deposits on your.
oh,
on
There's
your
a scarring
I love
out.
that. I love
Like,
that.
Yeah.
Look, it's him saying, "You're too old for this."
Right.
And he wrote that, goddammit.
You
Yeah.
should not be doing films like this anymore.
Yeah.
You should be playing like a dad on a sitcom or something like that. Like I can see like Stallone doing like a television show like as like somebody's dad or something like that, but
The
playing-
Rambos.
playing like an action hero now, it's just like it comes off as kind of desperate and a little pathetic.
Yeah.
I'm sure, he really thinks he can still do it, but it's like all the movies he's been doing are crap.
Yeah.
Well, that's
There's
why.
not like the last good movie he was in was like Creed 2, and he doesn't even do anything in that movie.
I mean, he's not the lead. That's the
He's
thing.
not the lead.
That's why
It's-
they don't call it Rocky 8.
Yeah, it's like
So,
he-
and Creed wasn't Rocky 7.
Yeah, it's like you need to have there just needs to be a point where you need to stop. And like I get it, Tom Cruise, like you still want to keep doing these action movies, but it's like you're basically just playing the same character.
Right. Yep.
And you keep you're pushing,
Ah!
you're pushing a You've seen that Mummy trailer where they
Oh,
filmed that?
Isolate.
I'm shocked I pulled that off.
God. But like you just at a certain point they need to just stop.
Yeah.
They need to stop.
Well, that's why all the kills in Last Blood are long distance.
Oh yeah, because he can't go one-on-one
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
I thought they were putting a lampshade on that when he gets beat the fuck up halfway
Yeah.
through the movie,
Yeah.
and he's got like the Rocky face.
Yeah. It's like,
And then
dude, that was
he-
only
that-
round 1. What happened?
And that heals in 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
No, he would be in triage for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
At his age, he would.
At his age, he'd be dead.
And he had inconsistent bruises at the end, too. Let me point that
Yeah.
out.
Oh, yeah.
For someone that got punched in the face that hard, this is all messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did not happen. I don't know how we got almost 2.5 hours out of Rocky.
They're the same. Fuck it.
Good night.
How we got 2.5 hours out of Barney Ross.
Right.
Christ. But yeah, it's like, I mean, this franchise, it needs to fucking end.
Yeah.
Some franchises just don't have longevity in them.
Just watch
We really
one. Just watch 1, 2, and 4. You've got your trilogy.
And even then, like, 2 kind of spits in the face of the first film, if you really think
it
about
does.
And
It
then, and
does.
then the fourth one is like, yeah, I understand you want to make an action film out of this, but it's like the political aspect is so kind of wrong-headed, and
Yeah.
that scenario, by making it so embedded with modern-day politics at the time, dates the movie.
Yeah.
And that situation was resolved with peaceful protest.
Right.
So it's almost like in the third film where they we're facing off against the Russians, and then the Cold War ends before the movie comes out.
Right.
Like, by dating your film like that, it hurts the movie.
And
the
and
first
these soldiers became what? The Tala what? Oh,
this film is dedicated
Awkward.
to the Mujahideen.
oh yeah, you.
Don't do that.
Wait, fix that to the gallant people of Afghanistan. Like you've
Yeah.
seen that comparison, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like they had to
Yeah,
change that
yeah.
later on, like post 9/11. Like, oh god, what have we done?
Yeah, and now America is making a deal with Mujahideen again.
Rainbow Six, everybody, Rainbow Six.
He's going back. He's going back.
That just, oh my God.
God.
We did that already. It was Hot Shots Part 2. We did it. We covered this.
I loved you in Wall Street.
Oh god, that was great.
Oh my Lord.
God, but yeah, it's like some franchises just don't have longevity. The first film is timeless. That first movie, you could just update that to modern day and do
Oh,
do a
100%.
remake.
100%.
Perfect. You could still do it. If anything, it would be. I would actually. At this point, I would say, yeah, go ahead and just do a remake. Fuck it.
What of Hot Shots?
Get. Yes. Yes. Don't have Charlie Sheen in it.
Hot Shots Menage a Trois.
They were
Gross.
talking about doing a third film for the longest time.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well,
But,
of course.
yeah, but I don't know.
I mean, even just doing the parody film nowadays, it doesn't work
It's-
anymore.
Well, now that Jason Seltzer and Aaron Freeberg have driven that concept into
From
the
two of the
ground.
6 writers, a scary movie,
That-
date movie, epic movie, big
those-
smart.
Those fucking leeches! I swear to God.
And it was Meet the Spartans as to why Rambo 2008 was not in first place.
Wow. I hope that they fucking burn in a fire. They disgust me.
You
They
know-
are the prime example of people taking advantage of a studio system
And stupid people.
and stupid people. They take advantage of people.
They're also a prime example of start a podcast, guys. This is funny off the cuff.
Yeah, like
Committing
this is-
millions of dollars to it? I'm sorry. Why?
Disaster movie. Remember that thing? It's like
that
no
those
pe-
films are also dated.
Remember that trailer. That's what it is. It's remember that trailer.
yeah, not even that movie, that trailer.
Those
Yeah.
films are also incredibly dated because it's
Yup.
like the references don't mean anything at like 6 months after the movie comes out.
Nope.
And if at first you don't succeed, fart, poop, sex, joke it out.
Yep.
It's like the worst possible incarnation of the cutaway gag on Family Guy.
Uh,
Like, don't get me wrong, I will laugh at a good cutaway gag on that show, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
show will also acknowledge, yep, it's a cutaway gag. But there's
They do
somewhere
that a
like,
lot now.
oh god, yeah, I've heard. Like, there's actually a video I watched on YouTube recently talking about how like the ratings have gone down, and they noticed the trajectory of the cutaways have gone up.
yeah.
Like, is that a coincidence? I think not.
I mean, it's like it goes to show that like people want smart comedy now.
yeah,
The-
I mean,
the age of Family Guy, I think, is kind of over.
I mean,
Like,
even
people-
Seth-
like that's why Rick and Morty is the most popular animated show on television, despite the fact that they still haven't finished the 4th season.
I mean, even Seth MacFarlane himself is just like he's really more there just doing the voices rather than actually like overseeing.
He's not even writing the show anymore.
Exactly.
No.
It's like
It's
not-
like Larry David doing the voice of Steinbrenner on Seinfeld after he left
or,
the show.
Matt Groening getting paid for The Simpsons. He's not even involved in The Simpsons anymore.
Right.
He hasn't been involved since like season 10.
That
Right.
sounds about right. Because
It's like-
you can so many comedies you can pinpoint the season that they're just like we're done.
Oh,
After
yeah.
season 10, that show ran its
Yeah.
course. It's
Like I always hear 9 and 10. It's like I think the one episode they always mention with the Simpsons is the one where they find out that Skinner isn't really Skinner.
that's the one.
Yeah, I
It's
can't
like
remember.
it's
what was
the
his
principal
name?
and the pauper.
Yeah.
I know exactly what
Yeah.
show. So that's the point where I
What-
was like,
what was his
"Fuck
real name?
you!"
I can't remember what his real name was. Like the identity.
It's like his brother or something like that.
something. Yeah, like one of like a soldier that he was
Yeah,
with.
it's-
John Rambo.
It was Rambo the whole time.
Way to circle that one back around.
Yeah, but yeah.
But yeah, Seinfeld season 7 when Larry David left. So usually
Yeah.
whenever Like, oh, well, Seinfeld's still a showrunner. We're still good. It's like, no, it turned into a cartoon. I'll still watch it.
Seinfeld still kind of continues in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just
Yes.
the same show.
It's the
just
George
with Larry David.
It's the George Costanza spinoff, basically.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Because George was based on Larry David. It's the R-rated, more cynical spinoff of George, basically, where he kills a black swan on a golf course because it was going to attack him. Like, it just came at me. It was going to bite me.
God.
That's just hilarious.
God damn.
And just that I will say, Curb Your Enthusiasm gave us the theme song, which is the best used meme ever. Dun, 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 dun.
Whoop, boom. So
That's
great.
the best.
Oh, my sweet Jesus.
I use
I
that.
want to
in
watch Curb Your Enthusiasm now.
I use that in storytelling now when someone does something like dumbass, and I'm like, and then they did this thing. Bump, bump, bump.
That should be played during every single kill in ending of Last Blood. That would make the movie so worth
Jesus.
it. Falls into the punji sex. Da, 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 da. Gets hit by the
Get on it,
pitchfork.
YouTube. Get on it.
Gets stabbed in the head. Da, 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 da.
We can edit things. We can make this.
Yeah, but so can other people. They can hear this like, here, do it. I'm too tired.
This is
I
our
got other
review of Last
we
Blood.
got other shit to do.
Dun.
Our 5-second preview.
Right on the pop of the collarbone.
Oof.
Punt, dun, 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 dun.
God damn it.
Or those.
Just add
what
a
was
champagne cork sound
What was
effects.
it? Movies in 5 seconds. Remember
Yeah,
those?
yeah.
That was-
They just pop the collarbone, play the song.
That was fucking a Nostalgia Critic who started that shit.
Yeah.
That was before, I think before he was ever a Nostalgia Critic. It was
Yeah.
that guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
You bring up a cursed name on this
Yep.
show.
Yep, back when he had talent.
Yeah, back before he was a horrible piece of shit. Yeah. I remember my favorite one was the 2001, and it was just like random shots of crazy shit from the movie, and then the ending was just Neo from the Matrix going, "Whoa!"
Sounds about
Favorite
right.
one. That's the best one.
I'm gonna have to look some of those up again.
Or
Actually,
the GoldenEye is pretty good. And it just ends with like Sean Bean falling to his death, and he slams into the ground, and then somebody goes, "The bloody hell was that?"
what wasn't Batman and Robin like almost the entire logo coming in, and then just Bam Margera shitting into a toilet? Like that had to be taken off of YouTube for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But you could see it elsewhere. It was the longest intro to the title, and then just
This is why I have 0 followers on Letterboxd, because I gave all the Jackass movies and the .5s 5 stars.
and the .5s.
All of them. Fight me.
I will say, Jackass 2 does make me laugh.
I don't know if I saw the second one. I saw I think the
The
first
one
and
where
third.
he tries to ride the rocket and it explodes out and almost kills him, and he
Oh,
just steps off and
Jesus.
starts walking down the dock. I will just always laugh because
Wow.
it just walks away so nonchalantly.
Yeah.
Just, I can't help but laugh.
We almost lost Johnny Knoxville that day.
We almost lost him.
You know,
That movie does make me laugh.
we need a Venn diagram of all the stunts between him and Jackie Chan, and just leave out
Yeah.
Skip Trace in the process.
Yeah.
Because there you go. That's the middle of the Venn diagram. Skip Trace.
Yep.
Because it has both of them in it.
That's right.
Like
I
the
saw
moment,
that
the
movie.
moment directed by fucking Rennie Harlan. I've never actually seen it though. It's so weird. Like Rennie Harlan keeps directing like all these like half Chinese movies now.
He's like he's just makes movies to make money. He's like, he
Yeah.
has no real talent.
No.
Like, his best movie is fucking Cliffhanger.
I mean, people seem to like his Die Hard more than 4 or 5, but 5's not saying much.
True.
The only one actually written
I just
from
fucking
scratch.
realized something.
Uh-oh.
The elevator sequence in Bloodshot, the sequence where they jump out the window in A Good Day to Die Hard. Don't use the sequels or remakes to inspire your movie.
Total Recall. Oh, the good one? No.
No. Oh, RoboCop. The good one?
No.
Joel Kinnaman. I have one final question related to this tangent and not to the actual film.
Yeah.
When did How It Should Have Ended get bad?
Yeah.
I haven't watched those.
I haven't
because-
watched those in forever.
They used
I got,
to be
I got
crisp and clear and like
They're just-
concise.
They're cinema sins now. They're just nitpicky
Oh.
bullshit.
I
They're
know.
just cinema sins.
I'm
It's
glad I'm
like,
staying away from it now.
I mean, granted, yeah, my complaints about like Man of Steel and BVS, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of them, but they're like legitimate. Like, it's ugly, editing's bad. Like, it's not like, oh, nitpicky bullshit. Like,
Right.
like I'll forgive like small stuff, but like when the movie is fundamentally broken, that's when I have a problem.
Sure.
Like something like complaining about the ending of Infinity War. It's like, you really gonna bitch about that?
Yeah.
Like, really?
my heroes died.
Oh, who gives a shit?
My
They're
toy,
gonna come back.
My toy stopped working.
Oh, it's working again.
Also,
Aaron, are you listening to this? Where are you?
Because of the current state, I don't know when you're listening to this. It could be fucking 500 years from now. We're going through something right now called COVID-19, the coronavirus.
We are all quarantined.
Kind of.
And because of this, many, many movies are being pushed back, canceled, put on hold. So this year is going to be a beautiful, glorious year where we have like one Marvel movie.
A ton of time between releases.
And then
I cannot wait to see photos of the audiences for Black Widow, and it's just everyone wearing a face mask.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot fucking wait.
But
I'm still waiting to see somebody walking down the street in a hazmat suit. I'm still waiting to see that.
So
Someone's going to do it.
my question is, does this affect the Marvel lineup down the line? Because they're doing 3 movies a year now.
I'm sure.
Or are
they're
we
going
gonna
to have to push.
Are we going to have 6 movies next year is my question.
No, because here's the thing. Film productions are on hold.
Yeah.
Like there was a TV show I was trying to get on in Baltimore now called The President is Missing, based upon the James Patterson book.
Okay.
But production now, is from what I've been told, is on hold.
Sure.
Like they've stopped. Everything is just stopped. Like no one should be gathered in one place because COVID-19, you can transmit it without getting
Suffering from
symptoms.
it.
Getting symptoms very quickly. So anyone can be a carrier.
Right.
So it's bad. It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
So being in public places, you're still taking a risk. I mean, obviously, I don't go anywhere anyways. I go to the gym and I go get coffee. That's what I do.
Right.
It's like in the gym, like I only use the equipment after I fucking clean the shit.
Sure.
So I'm okay. I can guarantee I'm okay. But in terms of like people in like crowded,
It was not okay.
crowded.
Bum, bum.
Shit! Ah, perfect. Yeah, but in terms of like crowded spaces, like movie theaters. When we went to see Bloodshot, how many people were in the theater?
10.
10
Oy.
people,
And we were half of them.
we were half of them.
Boy,
Yeah,
did you hear? So first of all, Onward was #1 this weekend.
No surprise.
But did you hear like what the highest grossing new film of the weekend was?
What?
First of all, I can't remember the name, but it was that generic.
Oh, The Hunt.
No,
Was it The Hunt?
No, not even that. It was that like Christian romance movie. What the fuck was it called?
Was it based on the Nicholas Sparks book?
It looks like one, but I don't know if it actually is.
At this point, they're the same thing to me.
They are
Nicholas
the
Sparks
same.
and Christian movies.
Yeah.
They're the same.
Did you guys see The Cabin?
No.
It was bad.
Oh Jesus.
Wait, you're talking, no, The Shack.
The Shack. There you go.
We're starring Jai Kinnaman.
I still believe from Lionsgate and Kingdom Story Company.
Oh, those people.
There you go.
You know, I worked on a Christian film.
Oh, I mean, get
was
get
the-
your money, man.
They paid me $1,000 for 13 days. We shot a whole movie in 13 days.
What?
You guys want to
Kind
tear
of amazing.
Would you guys like to tear that one apart?
Pick them.
Uh,
God's Not Dead 1, 2, and 3.
Let's take a look at my work. I was a gaffer.
Oh man.
I was a gaffer. So let's take a look at my work. They were nice people.
You're
were
picking
nice.
out some of my parents' favorite movies too.
Yeah.
So
They were nice, but they didn't ask me back for the sequel. I don't know why. Thanks. I think it's because they emailed saying like, "Hey, we're going to do a sequel to this film," and I was like, "Well, I've got other obligations right now. I'd like to come back, but only if you pay me, twice what you paid me last time because I need to make a living."
right.
They never responded to me.
No.
Sorry,
Actually,
I got to make a living too.
Looking at the box office, it looks like The Hunt was in 5th.
Wow.
Bloodshot was 3rd.
I'm not going to watch the movie because I don't.
Oh, guess what
care.
also came out in 3rd when it got released? RoboCop 2014.
Yeah.
Why am I not surprised?
Bum bum bum.
The
whole damn podcast.
Can anyone? Because I'm not going to watch it. What is the second twist of The Hunt? Is it?
I don't fucking know, and I don't care.
Like, what's weird is like
If
the
it's
people,
a dream, I'm just gonna fucking snap.
like they keep doing like the whole like, oh, we'll see it for yourself. Like no one's like really freaking out in either direction. Like, oh, it's against this, it's against that. Like the trailers try to make it seem like one thing, but apparently it might not be. It's like,
Yeah, okay, so
I don't know.
So the first trailer that came out was like all of the people in The Hunt are conservatives, and it's evil white liberals, just like that hit movie Get Out. But then apparently that was not the case, and there's a second twist, but I can't find what the second twist is.
the plot's not on Wikipedia yet.
I also haven't taken the time to look.
It's
Wikipedia's
literally
right there.
right there on your
Turn!
screen.
Turd.
I don't want to.
How long are we into the episode right now?
2.5 hours.
Okay, we'll take another 10 minutes. How about that?
I gotta go.
I do have work at 7.
Oh, no,
Oh,
the
shit,
plot's
okay.
not up, just premise.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Usually those things go up fast, but I guess no one gives a shit.
Well, no one's going to the movies anymore.
I wonder why.
You know, and also I found out the reason why Bloodshot wasn't released to streaming right away. It's because they had deals with the theaters to release it in theaters, so they couldn't break the contract, so they just had to eat the distribution fee. Sorry. That's why they were able to push back Fast 9. Because they didn't
11 months.
11
Jesus.
months because
That's the big one so
They
far.
weren't even ready to distribute it yet.
Because No Time to Die is November.
Yeah.
As of now.
That's like are they still going to do post production on that? Is it like when the writer strike happened in the 80s and Blade Runner had 9 months of pre production? Is it going to be like that, where
I wonder.
every movie's going to have massive post time, or everyone's just going to drop shit and just walk away?
I feel almost like the thing is they would have to keep paying people to work on the stuff more for more months. It's like, do we want to put more money into this, or are we happy with this?
Yeah, and that's
so
something
it's
that's
like it might be like your mileage may vary, varying situation type of thing.
yeah,
so.
and I've heard that's with the union that I'm with for film and TV. Everyone's had to walk away from all this work, and there's some kind of assistance package to help you for getting through the rough season. It's
Yeah.
because they don't know how long it's going to go on for.
Oh.
I've been hearing end of April, early May, as means of when it will stop.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of time to not be able to pay your bills.
Yeah.
They need to
you're not wrong.
freeze mortgage payments. They need to freeze bills because if people aren't going to work, you can't just bill them. Yeah. It's like Italy is stopping mortgage payments. They are stopping mortgage payments because
Yeah.
it's no one is making money right now.
Nope.
Fuck this movie.
What's the twist?
Oh dear.
Okay, so the setup is obviously the deplorables are getting hunted, and it ends with Emma Roberts as the last one standing, because duh.
Well, yeah.
Here's the second twist in a flashback, because of course this movie's terrible, and I haven't seen it, and I can tell you it's terrible. Then we get a flashback to a year prior. Athena, Hilary Swank's character, this is one of the CEO people,
Yeah.
is getting fired. A text chain between her and some other CEOs was leaked to the public and has created a huge controversy, specifically because they were texting, joking, about slaughtering deplorables at a manor. Manor Gate is born, and Athena and the others are canceled and fired. And it was a joke at the time, but the public largely took it to be true. This movie's about revenge for the canceled?
Go fuck yourself.
I'm very confused.
Seriously, go fuck yourself.
So your twist was make it worse.
Oh dear.
Well, don't ask me to fix the
And
hunt.
how much of that is reshoots or ADR?
Oh, I don't even care to know.
Yeah, there you go. Jesus Christ.
They're killing their trolls. That's this movie. The canceled CEOs who got canceled over just a joke are killing their trolls. Lord help us. The coronavirus is just karma.
Yeah.
So on that note,
I don't believe in karma, but I do believe in getting what you deserve. Karma's not real.
there's Karma Kramer.
You know how karma is not real? Dick Cheney still walks the earth as a free man.
How old is he now?
Dick Cheney
Oh,
profited off
God,
of
he's like a
9/11.
fucking zombie, dude. He will never fucking die. He doesn't even have a heartbeat. He has a machine that pumps his heart for him.
Yes. I don't know how to end this episode. I feel like we're at the end, though.
Just don't. Okay, here's the thing.
Hey,
Don't-
great pitch, though.
Great pitch, man.
Hey.
Really good.
I would watch the shit out of that
Yeah,
movie.
that sounds like a good ending.
Thank you.
Well, end on
Right.
a positive note.
Like
Great-
if
great
we have to
pitch.
have another one after 4, here you go.
And if we do a sixth movie, we're not. If there is a sixth movie, we're not going to do a pitch because
No.
honestly, this is a perfect ending. Fuck this fucking franchise.
We'll just release a review that's 20 minutes of Rambo.
So it's like the Red Letter Media Transformers.
It's like, that's less Stallone and more Arnold.
They're about
He'd
the,
be really,
there you go.
like my dad does this way too well actually. He's like,
That's it for us. You know where we're at on social media. Good
Yeah.
night.
Good night.
and good luck.
episode where we didn't get a Brandon woo at the end.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Wow.
It gets worse. It just gets worse. Where's my mouse?